Okay. Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. I'm Scott, joined once again by Rob, and today we are doing the recap and review of Crown Jewel. Of course, we were here last night giving our instant reaction, but we've had a little bit of time to let it kind of sink in now, Rob, and we're going to give kind of a more in-depth analysis of the event now as well. So what we're going to do, we're going to roll to the intro, and we'll see you in just a bit.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.
All right, so we certainly didn't miss any of the action yesterday, Rob, because we were here for a watch along as well. So if you ever want to rewatch the event, or you just want to see our reactions to some of the kind of biggest moments as they happen, then check out the watch along. If you want to kind of see more of our thoughts on the show in general, check out the instant reaction. But again, what we're going to do here, mate, is we're going to go right into it, match per match, as we usually do on the recap and review podcast. But yeah, generally feeling, Rob, how are you feeling 24 hours removed now from Crown Jewel?
Well, Twitter's been a bit explosive, hasn't it?
Just a little bit. Are you referring to Braun Strowman, perhaps, in some way?
A little, maybe a little. It's I mean, that's the wrong word, isn't it? Yes.
We'll get to Strowman, I'm sure, in due course. But you're right. I mean, a lot's been going on today.
Do you know what else is weird? Normally, when we do a review, I have to I go back through notes from WWE.com and
okay,
and try and think,
professional,
that happened,
mate. I appreciate it.
I try to make, because otherwise it goes straight out of my head, man. I forget so quickly with things.
Yeah,
I've not even had to do that. This is so fresh in my mind. I don't know if it's because I was more awake, or if it was because I enjoyed it that much and we were talking about it.
Yeah, and I definitely think there was an element of being live and kind of watching it together that kind of brought that excitement as well. But I'm really still on the vibe of it was a really good show. I've seen a few people kind of mention that the first half weren't that good, but I still quite enjoyed the beginning of it. But again, that could have been just us being happy to be, you know what I mean, streaming and enjoying it with people as well. Speaking of which, got a quick comment here already from Cameron. He's saying, hi, Rob. Thank you, Cameron, for coming back. Superstar Rob over here getting a little hello from Cameron. Much appreciated. Anyone that watches live or on demand, we really do appreciate it. And again, appreciate your comments with that as well. But man, it's it's strange to be 24 hours removed from the show. And like you say, it still feels quite fresh to me as well. Saying that, watch me now kind of blunder through some of these matches going, wait, what happened? Because I didn't write notes because we were live. You know, usually when we're not live, I'm writing notes as we go along to kind of reference again when we do this. And like you say, you're doing the same thing, going to WWE's website and kind of recapping yourself and rejigging the memory. But yeah, for us, like, kind of, what do? Watch your own video and then refer back to that.
The thing is, you could say that, but for a minute we were talking about what Cameron had for tea. So
that's a good point.
Help either.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we did kind of go off the rails there. But again, if you haven't already, feel free to check out our watch along. It was a great bit of fun, I got to say. And of course, before that, we had a build-up show, which again I know is about building you up and getting you excited for a PLE that has now taken place. But still, there's a lot of great in-depth conversation on that. We had a great guest from the Gimme a Whole Year podcast, which was of course Dom, and also Michelle, you would have seen on Rebellious Noise channels such as the RN football channel. So yeah, that was great as well. And as we mentioned, we had the instant reaction. But hey, that's enough plugging for now, Rob. Let's again get down to business and talk about the show overall. Now, before we go match by match, let's dig into general thoughts again. So we've seen a lot of kind of, like you said, a lot of kind of talk about online already. What's the general vibe you've been seeing from Twitter and stuff like that?
That Logan Paul does a better buckshot lariat than CM Punk.
Yeah, than CM Punk. Now that tweet, those kind of tweets coming out are making me laugh. But when people try and compare it to Adam Page, come on now. Like, you know what? Like as if Adam Page isn't good at it himself, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, people do, you know, when they do them side-by-side videos, and this is Adam Page, this is Logan Paul's.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, well, Adam Page has been doing it a long time. Logan Paul has done it great. However, when people are saying which one looks better, you're showing the worst one that Adam Page has done and the only one Logan Paul has done.
Yeah.
So of course people are going to sway towards Logan Paul's.
Hey, and with that, man, Punk
they look
would have
nasty
been able to
both
do
of the
it
way.
good as well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
they look not nasty as in delivered the way. Yeah. It looks great, but it looks like it's been delivered in an effective way. But
powerful.
I enjoy both. I mean, I'm not going to try and compare Logan Paul to Hangman Page in ring in any other way other than the fact they've done one move. That's like saying, oh well, who does the best drop kick? I mean, I've at Randy Orton's. You might have a difference of opinion. So I
thought you were going to say that your one was the best. I was all right, mate. Steady on.
I mean, I'm not saying I have a bad drop kick now, but it's the lucha blood. But
yeah, you're feeling.
But do you know what I mean?
Come out yesterday. Was it feeling luchy?
Yeah. Which it's got to go on a t-shirt, surely.
Of course, we're feeling Usi and feeling Lucci today as well. But yeah, any other kind of happenings on Twitter? Should we quickly touch on the Braun Strowman stuff before we go into the matches?
Yeah, do you want to leave the Logan Paul news to the match of what's happened with him?
No, let's go into some news first. Yeah, let's go into first and focus more on the match later on. But yeah, what do you want to talk about first then? Braun or Logan?
I think the bigger thing is Logan. So I think that's more the hot topic. Braun's just being Braun, isn't he?
Braun's gonna Braun, mate.
Braun's gonna Braun. Monster's gonna monster.
Strowman's gonna Strowman.
But yeah, so Logan Paul has torn his ACL, his MCL, and his meniscus.
Wow.
At what point in the match do you think that happened?
I don't know. I feel like I need to go back and watch it to see where it could have happened and also what happens after it. You know, like how does he start responding to it? I did put out a tweet, of course, with the buckshot lariat saying, that regardless, people the haters have to kind of admit it. He's an incredible wrestler. For someone that's wrestled 3 times to be pulling off what he is, it's amazing. Don't get me wrong, room for improvement as there is with everyone, but man, what a start. But yeah, so and people were like, oh, it didn't happen during the mood. It was like, well, I'm sure it hadn't happened at this point, but the point is I also don't know when it happened. So he did something impressive, no matter what it was. He continued the match and whatever. So yeah, I don't know when it was. I can't quite remember. The thing that stands out to me, maybe it was on the elbow drop, which looked great.
So a lot of people were saying it was the buckshot, but I was like, he done a lot of stuff after that. So
yeah,
if it was on that movement, then major kudos to him for continuing the rest of the match.
It was so fluid, but not elbow drop. I said elbow drop, but I meant the splash he does, of course, onto the because that's a hard, and even the one in the ring as well. It's always risky. Hit your knees. I did a frog splash years ago in the ring, and my goodness, my knees hurt.
Did you bounce like RVD on your belly?
I did bounce, yeah. I didn't do the one where he looks like he's crawling in the air trying to get back to the mat, though. Whatever that weird kind of thing he does. But
he's selling a gimmick, brother.
Yeah, of course. It's not easy, man. It hurts.
It's not.
It really does. So credit to him there. But yeah, what a shame because hey, I'm no doctor or physio. Clearly, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. Yep, I don't know how long he's going to be out for. But have you heard any kind of rumors as to how long this kind of injury usually takes to heal from?
The thing is, it depends on each, but I think there's an estimated time frame, which I don't know what that is. But normally, some people, prime example would be John Cena. He could be out, they say, for 9 months. He's back within 3. That man's a machine. Cody has taken a bit longer. Although there was something I sent in a group chat. I'm not sure if you see it, but it's 7 years to the day yesterday where Seth Rollins hit MCL and meniscus, and both times they were in a foreign country, and it was the same ref.
Both matches. Spooky.
I mean, I'm not saying there's the conspiracy theories going on in wrestling. I'm not saying there's but that's just weird, isn't it? It is very, very strange.
Yeah. Is it the same knee as well?
Right knee? I think Seth done his left.
Oh, okay.
So it may have been different.
50-50 chance there.
Yeah, well, it's one or the other, isn't
it? yeah.
But I mean, I don't know if you see the video. We're backstage. Logan Paul sitting on the the long bed thing, and he says he's tore the ACL, MCL with meniscus.
Yeah,
and he looks at Jake, and it's like a couple of weeks. And I was like, do you know what? To be able to laugh at that, I was like, hey, props to them. I mean, they went out there, they put on their show. Okay, he's injured from it, but he's not complaining.
Then I see there was another video of his girlfriend pushing him in a wheelchair, so this is serious, it seems, for now, and hopefully, he gets better, because again, what a better way to start your wrestling career than the way he has, being an outsider as well. I saw a really interesting thing floating around Twitter earlier on as well, saying that a lot of celebs that apparently Shawn Michaels said something along the lines of a lot of celebs, we kind of have been teaching them the spots and then do the basics. Whereas I think they've done the reverse, it seems, with Logan. They've trained him as if, you know, he is just coming in as a new wrestler. You got to start from the beginning, you know. So I get when you got short time, you kind of just be like, "I'll do this, we'll do that," and then you don't show them the basics. And the basics, of course, you know, your fundamentals. These are important, of course. So you can see it kind of paying off.
Yeah, I don't want to be controversial on this podcast because I am never controversial on this podcast. And I'm gonna drop
you
a
do
little
come up with some weird takes, but go on, carry on.
Oh, well, you're about to enjoy this one, pal. Logan Paul, 3 matches. Yeah. So I'm not sure if you're aware, by the way, but him and Bad Bunny now have 2 wins and 1 loss. So who the best celebrity wrestler at the moment is up for grabs?
It's Logan Paul.
It's got to be Logan.
Logan Paul
However,
is the best.
I don't want to crap on any other wrestler, right?
Mm-hmm.
Logan done 3 matches, and you remember loads of them matches. Now, tell me the last time you remember something from a Ronda Rousey match. She is an athlete in the octagon, and she had all that training. Logan Paul.
That's unfair. She's had some good matches and good moments, but I do get what you're getting at. You know, like,
how is she not better than Logan when she's had more time on the road? I just don't understand it. Now, do you know what I'm saying? I'm not saying she's terrible. She has a good in-ring presence. But
it's different style as well, though. You know, that's like saying
she gets to carry on.
Rey Mysterio is better than the Big Show just because he does different moves. Like,
they could both perform. Ronda, I don't see it. Logan Paul, I was like, that guy's good. And we were debating earlier or yesterday about him having a championship with Jake. When was the last time he was like, Ronda needs a title? Do you know what I mean?
Hey, I'm not saying Logan needs a title. I'm just saying that potentially.
But we'd be more acceptable to Logan having it than Ronda having the title now.
Nah,
and it says a lot.
I don't mind Ronda having a belt. It's just you, mate. You're talking about your own feelings here.
But can you see what I'm saying, though?
No, I get what you're saying. He's done very well. Again, the first 3 matches, and again, we compare it to Pat McAfee and Bad Bunny, but I think for me, Logan Paul is the top of that list now, clearly, and
100%.
I think if we see more from the other 2, it could change. But hey, what an incredible time to be a wrestling fan and have to kind of not just put up with the outsiders, but enjoy the outsiders. You know, that's what's so special about it. I think that it feels kind of way more genuine. And speedy recovery. Of course, we're hoping for Logan there. You know, he probably wouldn't have had, you know, a match on SmackDown, but there is scope for him to be there at Survivor Series or Royal Rumble, and you know that doesn't really seem likely anymore. So maybe it's going to be a while before you see him in the back of the ring, and not just that, you know, it's going to affect his other businesses and the other things he does. I don't know if he had any. Oh, he did have a fight coming up, didn't he? So that's I wonder what that's going to do for that. So an interesting one there.
The Braun Strowman tweet. Although I'm not sure how he's written it.
I don't fully is he being sarcastic on some of these things? I don't fully get what Strowman's on about, but
so I may butcher what it says, but I'm not sure if it's a specific thing. So it's either 47 5 stars or 47 stars.
I think he's saying 47 5 stars, but I don't know who's giving him that or if he's taking a mick.
But his tweet is, holy hell, the giant Omos, can you believe we got 47 5 stars or 47 stars, either or, and reminded the people that no one cares about all these floppy floppers. Giants are monsters over flippy flopper bag you groceries. What is he on about?
It's all over the place, and yeah,
but it's so funny because he just loves trolling people. Have you seen this image?
The picture of the indie, like, hey, it made me laugh. Don't get me wrong, but he's chatting a load of rubbish as well at the same time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's
but he's getting attention and he's getting eyes.
Well, I don't know, man. Like, it just reminds me of the crap he said during 2020 that was just so ignorant as well. But hey, it is what it is. As much as I like Braun, I think he needs to maybe stay away from Twitter for a bit, just like Steph did for a little while as well. What we're doing now, we're going to bring in Lucas as well. He's just about to join us, and we're going to talk about again each match as we go along. But we'll bring him in and see what he thinks of these kind of notorious Braun Strowman tweets now as well. So here we are. Here's Lucas. Good to see you, mate. How you doing?
Is that a Christmas jumper, I see?
Indeed, yeah. Christmas Eve.
We're in November, pal.
Hey, come on. We're on the way, though, mate.
Well, almost.
I mean,
It's
Halloween,
not Christmas.
That's it.
It's
not
the road to
Christmas till I see
Christmas
the
mania.
It's not Christmas till you see the Coca-Cola advert. I haven't seen it yet.
Oh,
YouTube.
okay.
On
It's
YouTube.
on
It's not the
YouTube.
same.
It's
It's not the
always
same.
Christmas.
Love, look, I had All I Want for Christmas Is You blasting out at 12 midnight, which is Halloween. Tuesday morning, 12 a.m.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised.
Have you got your tree up?
And
Yeah,
that
so
very
Lucas,
advert, I would
Have you
do,
seen?
but yeah, she won't let me. No, her mum would let me yet. But I might
Have you
start
seen
just-
this Braun Strowman stuff, Lucas?
Yeah, the stuff about the flippy floppers, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this kind of ties in. He's very weird on social media, isn't he?
Mm.
Because
At
obviously
least he's controlling his narrative, though, eh?
because his first run in the company obviously ended in 2021 with his release. Obviously, he was famed for obviously having a 7-figure contract, believed to be on around $1 million a year, hence why they decided to let him go. But his first run in the company, he very much gave the impression of someone who felt that he was maybe a bit above his station. Don't get me wrong, he had a very good run. Like it's weird saying that, because yes, there are things we can criticize in that run, but he still became a world champion. He still obviously was a feature at the Saudi events. Definitely, obviously he won the Greatest Royal Rumble, that trophy thing they did for him, that belt thing. You know,
Yeah,
Still a champion.
Match against Tyson Fury. Like there was lots of stuff that they did for him in that first run, but he always kind of felt a bit on social media. It felt very off. I think, you know, we talked about, I think on the build-up show, Scott, when we talked about obviously Seth Rollins, when he had that year where he was kind of trying to like feud with Ospreay, even though they weren't in the same company, and Seth Rollins was very much WWE is the best wrestling ever, and it's the best place to work, and just saying stuff which just felt very disingenuous. And I think Braun's similar, but I guess he's got that attitude too of like someone who, end of the day, he must know he was headhunted because he was a former strongman who happens to be 6'8", and you know he was the ideal look for what Vince McMahon was looking for. And end of the day, if he was, you know, a 5'8" kind of skinny gym kid, like, he wouldn't get looked at. But he's using the fact of, you know, he's booked as an attraction, and I do get behind some of that narrative, like in the sense of, when we think about Dave Meltzer and the star ratings, again, probably another sidebar for another kind of separate thing we need to be doing on these, because, you know, we could talk to death about those kind of things. But end of the day, like, Braun Strowman is never going to have a 5-star match, like, you know, by, you know, Dave's kind of criteria. But he's able to have a place in wrestling and, you know, have enjoyable moments. And, you know, remember for ages, his thing was just like destroying things, wasn't it? It was always like, what would Braun destroy next? And, you know, that kind of thing was, you know, while it lasted, it was entertaining. But I think you're kind of digging at the fact that, you know, when obviously he was released, there was essentially not much interest from AEW. I think around the time when he got released, when Tony Khan made that statement of like, we're not just going to hire anyone who gets released. And I don't know if it was directly at Braun Strowman, because he got released alongside other people. But there doesn't seem to have been any conversation from either party about AEW. And you have to imagine that if he was on $1 million a year in WWE, there was no chance of him really getting that in AEW. Like, because AEW don't seem to book that kind of thing right. I mean, look at Wardlow. You know, they don't seem to book the monsters correctly. Because they've got no history of doing it, because, you know, like, the EVPs are people who are the Flippy Dippy squad. But it's very interesting. He's tweeting from a very secure place now. You have to imagine he's got a new contract, which, even if it's not as lucrative as the last one was, it's still a contract with the WWE, and most likely for a few years. He's able to tweet this from a safe position. But I think he's got to be careful, though, because obviously there are some of the Flippy Dippy crew who are in the WWE at the moment, who are friends with people who, obviously, people forget that it's you know, it's a business, but it's weird that we think of it as two sides. But like, there's people who are friends with people. You know, it's not like it's, you know, like war or anything. It's just a case of, you know, they happen to work somewhere else now. Yeah, but I think he's got to be very careful, because, you know, Triple H, I think, as much as he's not going to be exactly like Vince was, I think potentially with this kind of stuff, I think he will start looking at this. Like, Vince was obviously famous for, the people said something that he didn't like on social media, that could be kind of enough for Vince to think. Remember, he punished Baron Corbin famously. Baron Corbin kind of tweeting against the American military. It also punished that. It was his own fault anyway. But the guy, the Forgotten Sons, that whole push. Because of these tweets, obviously.
Yeah.
2020. And obviously people like Drake, obviously again, some people have done it to themselves, obviously. Drake Younger, who obviously was a referee, and has kind of gone down that kind of far right wing tunnel of views and opinions that obviously didn't align with anyone's really, apart from real, you know. But I do think Triple H will, maybe have to have words with some of the talent to be like, look, let's maybe avoid behaving like this, because obviously there's people that can sit on both sides. What do you think?
100%. I think that the key here as well, and I'm sure we can get into this as well, but like you say, his colleagues are going to get annoyed. I think Ricochet has responded, and Mr. Furley's responded as well, and it's like, look, that kind of analogy, the McMahon thing of different flavor ice cream and all that stuff. Like, I'm all for that, and I think you mentioned security. When I actually think, although he's securing his role, I think this has come from insecurity. I think it's come from, and don't get me wrong, I think if I was in his position, I got hounded with the tweets he does, it would be hard not to see past people kind of being like, you're not good because you don't do X, Y, Z, and him feeling resentment to that style of wrestling because of it. Like, I think it's easy to kind of get taken over like that. I think to draw comparisons in football, for example, I'm an Arsenal fan. Granit Xhaka, he's really like, I can't believe what people said about me and my family and stuff like that. But it's like, but that's not a real representation of football fans or Arsenal fans, and he went really against it and kind of hid away from some of the things that maybe he did wrong. Right now, that's all kind of changed. It's a fairy tale, and he's working out well at the club again now. But I think it's a similar thing to what Braun's gone through here. I think he's got such a focus on the negative side that it's kind of made him go complete. Indie sucks, flipping sucks. Like, and he's not realized the fortunate space that he's in. That and it's kind of ironic because he's also said, he's acknowledged, this is the big man. We've kind of pushed the bar for the big man match. He was compared to Andre and Hogan in the comments after it as well, and in the replies and stuff like that. And he kind of played up to it. And it's like, you're acknowledging that you are a certain section of the wrestling show. Can you not acknowledge that this other one is just as valuable? Just because there are people that are like that are taking a mick out of you for doing your stuff, it doesn't mean they're right. And I think it's come from a little bit of insecurity, in my opinion. And again, I completely understand it. If I was getting hounded by thousands of people daily, it would probably sway my opinion on a few things. I think it's hard to see the forest for the trees, as they say. And I think that's kind of what's happened with him here. And it's a real shame because I think he is so talented. He is one of the best big men in the past 20 years. There's no doubt, like we were talking about, Omos not really living up to it. And again, we'll get into their match. They did have a great match together for a big man style. But the fact is, it is a big man style, and the flippy stuff has its own space over here as well. Yes, there are obsessives who like one style over the other, but that's not a real picture of the real world and of the wrestling landscape, And I think Braun's kind of been suckered into that. And again, in his own kind of defense and anger at the situation, lashing out at those fans, he's resenting wrestlers that he probably shouldn't, and getting his own kind of colleagues, again, getting their back up and getting against him. And it's just, it creates this turmoil. It's not healthy at all.
Yeah, he's backing himself into a corner. Like, from one aspect, one respect, I understand where Braun's like, the big guys don't get the attention they deserve because they're big. They're like their own thing. Yeah. For example, John Gonzalez, Great Khali. Do you know what I mean? Like, all these big guys, Kane, Undertaker, they were big guys.
They're in a box. As if they're in a box. Yeah.
And then everyone else, from let's say Ricochet down to Daniel Bryan, were smaller guys. So they got this thing. So Vince had his own way for bigger guys, and Triple H done it with smaller guys. But because he's now Triple H has signed him, he's kind of put himself in his position. Well, Triple H re-signed me, not Vince. So there's a meaning behind it. But at the same time, jumping on your co-workers when they're the guys that had your back when you got released. Do you know what I mean? It was like, book him for this show. He's great for this.
Yeah.
But then
even that, like, it was bit him, because remember again what he said in 2020, as if like anyone, I just, like, you were in a fortunate position, mate. Like, he was kind of being like, people kind of panhandling online and stuff. It's like, you don't understand what it's like to be, in the indie grind. You know what I mean? Let's not make fun of this stuff. Like, it is.
Yeah.
Like,
it's also, I think he looks at it in a way as anyone can do the flippy dippy stuff, but not everyone can be 6 foot, 7 foot.
And but that's not a talent, bro. That is a genetic gift.
That's a genetic
It's not
gift.
a talent. You didn't work hard to do that. You work hard to perfect the big man match, and I'll give you full credit for that.
Yeah.
But then those smaller guys work hard to perfect what they do. Rey Mysterio isn't going around going, I'm a small guy, and that's why I'm good. He's going around saying, because I'm a small guy, I've developed this style, and that's why I'm the GOAT of the small guys. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting thing. Hey, we could spend hours on this, I'm sure. But what we should do, I'm sure now, is go into this match by match. Got a few comments here as well. Cameron, you're back. We know it. We really do appreciate it. Chris is here as well. Yo, right back at you. And Cameron says, I like the way Braun and Omos match. I'm happy that, there we go. Happy that Omos won. Much appreciated for you guys joining us again. Anyone on demand, anyone live, drop your comments. Sorry,
Braun won.
Braun won.
Oh, mate,
Braun
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe
I don't know what.
Oh, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, right. Anyway, let's get into it, match per match, guys, and we'll start out, of course, with the match that kicked off. Where are we? Let me try and find the. Actually, what did kick off? Hold on, it was.
You all right?
Brock and Lashley.
Brock and Lashley.
We remember this pay-per-view.
yeah, exactly. We're like, oh, mate, it's still in the head. It's still there. Clearly not. Brock Lesnar versus Lashley. And what a start, guys. I mean, this was, again, me and Rob have kind of gone a bit deep on this yesterday with our instant review. So I guess most of this will be good to get from Lucas's point of view, and us kind of chime in from that as well. But so we'll let Lucas kind of take the lead on, I guess, all these matches. So firstly, Lucas, what did you think of Brock Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley?
Yeah, the minute I kind of realised Brock was the main event, I was like, he's going on first, isn't he? He's going first and getting out of there.
Shower plane gone.
Money bag was behind the curtain.
Swag bag.
He was
gone straight in, one swoop as he walks on, like.
So this now seems like they're building up a trilogy of these matches, which I'm down for. Don't get me wrong. I think of the first one, the Rumble, obviously we had lots of circumstances around that time that kind of made it a bit weird. This one obviously was the first one I guess they properly built up to. It's been a purpose-built feud. It does seem that they have made the choice to swing Lashley back to the villain role.
Yeah.
Because Lesnar was getting cheered as a villain. And so it'd be interesting seeing what happens when they go back to the States. The crowd were very hot for this, by the way. Very hot. Obviously, it will start the show. I guess it was the first wrestling they saw. But I think Brock is definitely a star over there to them. And so it made sense to do it that way. So it'd be interesting to see if they do continue this narrative. They have to, surely, because of obviously how the match ended.
One apiece, isn't it?
Sorry?
It's one apiece now, isn't it?
Yeah, and that too. Yes. Yeah. I guess they're going to have to keep the narrative of obviously Lesnar being the babyface. America, like hopefully they keep it that way, because I just don't think Brock's going to get booed in America now. He's got that kind of level where, especially about Heyman, I think there's that, even with Heyman, I guess people want to see the act, won't they, of Brock and Heyman together, I guess, so they cheer it.
Yeah.
Heyman will get it back, but yeah, I think sans Heyman, Brock needs to be babyface. This was the right direction to go for this match, I think. I really liked it though. I wasn't the biggest fan of the finish, but I guess it does make sense for if they are going to set up a rematch. There had to be something like this. It just came across a bit awkwardly. Obviously,
it's a bit clunky, wasn't it?
Yeah, this finish is, I've called it the Samoa Joe losing a title finish. I think it was how he lost both his United States Championships, where literally, in his like submission hold, and then they go up and they run the buckle. It's the old Bret Hart, he's only finished well.
We said that yesterday, and they're watching.
Brilliant. It's a fantastic finish.
Yeah.
Bret Hart, what he expects. But yeah, no, I mean, obviously we've seen this done better previously. But obviously, they look a bit clunky how they got into it. But I think the post-match stuff saved it. And obviously, they got that angle going into hopefully setting up the new one, the next one. But yeah, like I can't really say much more. Like there was some nice kind of, I'm going to start a list of the kind of bugbears I'm having with the WWE kind of ring product. And I think there's a lot of stuff that needs to just be binned off now. And one of them was in this match, and that was a barricade break. Just like
it's always in the same area as well.
Same area, it's always the same thing. Like if we're meant to, obviously I know it's not real, but if we're portraying it as being real, like surely if you was at
it's not what
if we were portraying it as you're at an event and something keeps breaking at an event.
Reinforce it.
Reinforce it. Or you'd have, like I said, you'd have some sort of, comeuppance for this kind of stuff, like fine.
Yeah.
You're suspended because you've done this. You wouldn't just continue to let people just run through the barricades and stuff. But yeah, like one of those, you kind of felt it had to. You kind of like it's gonna happen, and they did it straight away, didn't they? Pretty much.
Yeah.
I think like second, third move of the match, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Was decent. What do you think, Rob?
I was going to say, just jumping on what you said about the barricade thing, I wouldn't have minded that spot if they hadn't done it on the Raw or the show previous, because they'd done that spot and then through the table and all that, because there's a sort of spots where it's a great way to kind of two big men plow them through something, cause destruction. The next week we'll make them fight and then we'll break them up. It's that same formula. And I appreciate it if it's done the correct way. But if you're going to use that big spot, either that or being thrown through like the commentary table in that match, don't do it in a build-up. Let us just see it in that match. Otherwise, it takes away from what we've just seen. But yeah, no, you're right. I for me, I enjoyed the match. It was high energy. It's what you expect from a traditional Brock Lesnar match now. However, it's like a Brock Lesnar's greatest hits, but with Bobby Lashley kind of thrown in. And I'm not against it. It's weird. I was comparing it to how do you get Bobby Lashley, who was a face at the beginning, over as the heel when Brock Lesnar come out with a massive pop in America. And I said it kind of reminded me of, and I'll say this lightly, Rock versus Hogan at Mania, when the crowd was just cheering for everyone. They had to find a way to get Rock heel in the match. And obviously they was able to do it. And then with this, it was kind of, well, who are we cheering for and who are we booing? And then we finally got that answer at the end.
I feel this one was deliberately booked to do that, though. I think Rock and Hogan very much was on the
fly.
Yeah. And I'm not disputing that.
But I do see what you mean.
It just felt like, who are we cheering and who are we booing for?
Yeah.
And they done the same thing with Brock when it was against Taker. It took for Taker to give Brock a low blow to show who the heel was in the match.
Yeah, that's to make it clear. I think Bobby Lashley doing a number on, as they say, on Brock Lesnar and just completely destroying him.
Yeah.
They've achieved a rare double turn here, essentially.
Yeah.
I'd argue to an extent that it's just been done by default, though. Like, their booking has helped it, don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's definitely established Lashley as a villain where he wasn't a villain before. But obviously, the crowd have just turned Lesnar face anyway, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the times it's happened previously, like if the most famous one, obviously, Brett and Stone Cold at Mania, like it was very much like, the match itself, kind of the fans just went one way, against it. And so it meant that the double turn was more like organic. We just want to force that, no, this is going to be a double turn because Lesnar's getting cheers. Now all we've got to do is get Lashley to get booed. If they book something, Lashley to get booed. And so that, where we're at. Which is why I'm guessing in America, on Raw, obviously, they need to open it or make sure that if Ash and Lesnar are featured, that those roles are the same. Because something that annoyed me about Vince's booking, particularly in the last few years, is people would just over the joint, weren't they? They were face one and villain and flip-flopping. We talk about, obviously, Big Show was a famous one, but there's been loads of others where, even like Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, like, they were everything. At one point, they were turning each other, feuding with each other, and teaming with each other again. It's like, but a lot of it is how fast the product moves though nowadays, because it's always got to have something else to sell, something's like a hook to sell for the network. But definitely. I think it's the right decision to be done though.
Yeah. I think what's good though, so is Brock now, I think, again, I don't like doing comparisons, but I think with this Brock Lesnar, without Heyman, and he's not the beast incarnate Brock Lesnar, and he's not come back and he's doing all this stuff to make wrestling legitimate again, and all this garbage they done in 2012. We're now just getting fun-loving Brock Lesnar who comes out to cheers. He's now at this level where John Cena returns and he gets a legacy moment. And I think Brock Lesnar is now living through this legacy moment where the fans just love him. And you can't help that. If that's an organic reaction, just don't take it away.
And he's purposely tweaked his character, of course, as well. We've got a quick comment here from Cameron saying, I don't like the beast incarnate Brock Lesnar. And again, they've moved away from that. Now it's more the cowboy, fun-loving, happy Brock. And I think what they need to do, agreeing with you, Lucas, is that they need to really cement these kind of new directions of their gimmick and their gimmicks. And Lashley on Raw basically just needs to like batter someone small and defenseless or something like that, or someone lower down the card or something, just to be like, oh, what a piece of, you know what I mean? Even if Brock ain't there, they got to kind of cement it with that, because again, I don't want him to flip flop and turn back over. I think naturally, Brett and Austin, the most kind of obvious one, as you mentioned, that was like a natural thing that just ended up taking place. This is like a correcting thing for me. We were talking about it in the predictions that this was the wrong thing to do to turn Brock anyway, so this is the best way to go about it. And I don't know where they go next. I don't know whether or not they have this rematch straight away, or if they do it like the gap between the first and second, where they go away for a few months and then do it again.
I'd like to see it at Rumble. It kind of started there. It'd be quite poetic for it to kind of finish there.
With a proper build again, going into it as well. But I agree with what you said as well, Lucas. Good end to the match. Me and Rob went in depth on this yesterday, of course, but was a bit clunky, but it was just it was an interesting way to do it. Basically, it was good in that sense that it's a good finish that we don't see these in big man matches, but maybe that's why, because it did get a bit clunky. So what I liked about it was that it was a different thing for a big man match. What I didn't like about it was the execution, which I'm sympathetic for, because it was a tough thing to pull off. But even still, you'd imagine he was meant to roll through or something like that. Even the understanding of, well, Brock's too heavy, can't lift him up. Like there's that as well. So I think
as well, like I get the feeling that, obviously, it's not a feeling. It's something we know. Brock obviously does like to work very, very kind of intense. And when he was in the Hurt Lock, which he sold like so well, I felt. You get a feeling that definitely with them both being MMA guys, people forget Lashley did flirt with MMA for a little bit. Being on and has had success with it, I guess. To not to the level of Lesnar, obviously, but them both being MMA guys, I do think there would have been from Brock. Like Brock was one of those guys. It's like, if you're gonna lock me in something, you're locking it in. Like there isn't like a work kind of way of doing it.
Yeah, that's a good point.
You saw kind of how intense it was when he was in the Hurt Lock. I think that ultimately didn't really help at the end a bit, because it meant that he didn't really have any
freedom
to do anything. But if it had been applied like a not as intense,
like a John Cena submission.
Oh, yes,
little floppy arms.
But no, I think that they definitely saved by that post match thing.
100%. No, of course, that did a lot to reinforce both sides of the character, if this is the way they're going with it, which I think is the best thing to do. So let's move on to the next match as well. Of course, we ended up with a match that was only just announced basically in the kind of final few days really leading into this PLE. And of course, that was the tag titles match between Damage CTRL and Asuka and Alexa Bliss, who of course were newly crowned champions. Sadly for them, lost their titles pretty early on. Of course, there was a Bray Wyatt kind of flirt with this as well, which we'll kind of leave to later on when we talk a little bit about Bray Wyatt, I think. But just going on this match, Lucas, what did you think of this? And what do you think of the hot potato in? Was it just simply to make it, that something big happened at this Saudi show? And was it to kind of really just drive home the importance of Nikki Cross's betrayal, or kind of random kind of introduction to the match at least? Because you could argue it's not a betrayal because they're not a team anymore. But still, what did you make of all that? Was it all kind of to do with that, do you reckon?
I think they wanted to get a second women's match on the show. They, for some reason, obviously decided not to go with a Ronda match. They probably decided they couldn't just do like a nothing women's match, quote unquote nothing women's match, kind of like, like when they did like Natalya Lacey Evans, which is like, that was just, it's a women's match on a show. So I think they kind of felt tied into it. And I guess because they were going to have Damage CTRL, on the show with Bayley anyway, it kind of made sense for them to have something to do. Obviously, I've kind of only just caught up with this Nikki Cross stuff. I know she only came back to Raw, obviously, just recently, and obviously she's dropped a silly superhero gimmick. And that part I wasn't a massive fan of. As we're going to get to my next bugbear now. Well, as you know, we'll save this rant for a little bit later, but wasn't the biggest fan of, but I actually enjoyed the match, the tag team match. I thought it was a stellar tag team match. I think, obviously, you got 4 Vogue performers in there. I do think Alexa Bliss, some of her stuff, like it looks very, very pony though. Like it looks very like it doesn't hurt. You know, there was bits where she was doing, particularly with Dakota Kai, where it just didn't look like anything that either person did hurt. It was just like, you know, I get that obviously they're small, you know, again, we forget. I mean, obviously we forget until obviously, you know, Scott's had a chance to interview some of the women, but they are tiny women. Like we forget kind of how small some of them are. You know, and we get that it's not going to be as impactful as obviously like a Drew McIntyre, Karrion Kross, that kind of stuff. But I still think there's just a little weakness there where it's just like you're not doing yourself enough justice. In terms of the title switch, it doesn't bother me too much, but I think that's more because of what's happening, obviously, to the other divisions where people just are not losing belts like forever. So it's actually in somewhat nice to have that. I do say that the women's the NXT women's tag belts have also had a real kind of misfortune with this as well, with these short title reigns and you know, vacancies and one person giving up a belt, and you know they had a lot of it going to go on, and so I think, you know, if they want Damage Control to be champions, have them go for a little while now. You know, at least a couple of months, so we can go, okay, for 2 months, we haven't had someone, you know, can we have a couple of month period where no one's walked out the company with the belts? We haven't had to vacate them, no one's injured. We've managed to keep a tag team together more than you know, 5 minutes, because, you know, that's how you can build a women's division. But yeah, I didn't mind the touching of that. Like, I think, you know, that's the way, like, you know, they have decided they want, obviously, what they want for the Raw women's and the SmackDown women's. I'm guessing now is kind of already looking into what they're going to do with those belts at Mania. And so people that aren't involved with those moments need to have a title to fight for. And so the tag team title for the women is the only other option. You know, so obviously they are going to go ahead, let's say, with, you know, Charlotte Ronda or, you know, Becky. Is it Becky Ronda? I don't know what one they want now. Is it Charlotte and Bianca they want at Mania? And
that would make sense because they haven't really.
Something like that. Yeah, because it can't be Bianca and Becky again.
Nah.
We say that.
The thing is, they after their feud, Becky was the one that stood side by side with Bianca when the Damage.
Yeah, you have to wonder where that was going to go originally.
So I don't think. I mean, I mean, Becky got legitimately injured, right?
Yeah.
So which is obviously where that changed the narrative for what was happening. So I guess maybe they can revisit that.
A 6-woman tag match between like Bayley's team and obviously Becky would have been Becky, Bianca, and I guess
I reckon Alexa? Charlotte. I think because it was Alexa and Asuka that came to do the save after, because Becky had gone for injury. It was Alexa and Asuka. So I think
it would have been if obviously Becky wasn't injured, it would have only been one of Alexa or Asuka, surely. Yeah. Or did they determine that they want Alexa and Asuka to be attacked? You know, I mean, it's hard to know when this stuff was decided again because it was so back to back. But essentially now, the women, they only have that other belt to go for, this tag belt. So essentially, so I guess, you know, this might be where they might look at a mid-card women's title because, you know, essentially you're going to have to either, if you don't want, so for instance now, they've decided they don't want Asuka or Alexa Bliss to face for the Raw SmackDown Women's Championships, the only belt they can go for is a tag team championships. You're going to keep having women just go, oh, let's just randomly team up now.
Make a team, yeah.
You know, instead of, because this is the thing I don't get, there's no, at the moment now, there's no actual women's tag team. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's no like actual, we are two women who have never been singles wrestlers, or whatever, or never presented as singles wrestlers, and we're a tag team. If that makes sense. Every tag team is just women who were singles wrestlers at one point, even for short periods, but are now like a tag team.
They did have a tag team.
I was just gonna say, is this where we get Rob's obligatory iconic?
They threw them away. We had.
Hey, I agree, buddy.
Teams.
I agree.
They threw them away.
There it is. Anyway, let's bring it back to this match before we move on to the next one. Rob, any extra points you want to mention on this one now that we've had 24 hours?
I'm now hurting again because of the Iconics.
Trying to calm you down there, mate.
I'm sorry. But they threw them away, man.
They did it. I know.
And then they went to Impact and killed it.
Hey, I said let's move on, buddy.
But look, I don't mind this idea of the hot potato for the women's tag titles, and I say that weirdly because I'm normally really against it, and I want the women's tag titles to have a meaning.
Yeah,
but instead of, as Lucas rightly said, we've got a mixed tag team of Asuka and Alexa, but we have a faction of people that are together. So give it to a faction that are set together, and let the titles be there, because at least while they're with a faction, they're at least a team.
Yeah.
Like then, and it just
should have been taken off them in the first place, though. I think it was all about having a big payoff at the show. Do you know what I mean?
I like the idea of it. I don't know. I feel a part of me feels like, do you know what? I actually enjoyed the idea because they had them for a week. They let them do all this promo with the faces being the champions. They got all this good publicity for it. The faces doing all the Be a Star stuff, and then the Damage Control took it off them, and it was like, well, as a team, we can beat you. They had an off night, and also I think it builds into a narrative of we're champions, Bayley isn't, and I think it's going to put pressure on Bayley to do what she can now to win that title.
Yeah, so I thought it would be the reverse of that, that Bayley would be being the leader. But it's interesting to see that. Of course,
the fact that it isn't, though, it makes it interesting.
It does. It's a different way to do it, taking up the usual kind of typical narrative for it. But again, not a fan of hot potato, but if it's about getting a big moment, and also the Nikki Cross thing, like me and Rob went on this a little bit yesterday as well, Lucas. But any thoughts from you that Nikki Cross is going to be joining Damage Control? Or is this just about her being wild and kind of creating havoc?
I quite like the idea. I get a feeling though she might become the new leader. They might have
said this.
Bayley.
I like turn on Bayley.
They turn on Bayley and be like,
so a bit of a Judgment Day situation.
And Nikki Cross, because the thing is, it's interesting that they've chosen girls that are all, kind of alternative-ish, I guess. Kind of, well, Fletcher Barrett in the day. But anyway, it seems that they are more alternative, I'd say. I think out of the other women they've got. And I think Nikki Cross joining them could be good, or they could have like a leadership kind of thing. We could go down. Because surely they're going to have to. As much as you're saying this might be a way to get Bayley the belt, but surely you've had 2 shows in a row to do it.
Shots hasn't happened already,
and it hasn't happened. I just think it's not going to happen.
It'd be cool though, if Nikki Cross stepped in and went, "This is how it's done." It's like the Farouk and the Rock in the Nation. You know what I mean? It'd be like, "I'm taking over now. I'm the IC
we
champ."
know Triple H likes his factions.
Exactly that.
So I think that if anyone was to do it, a faction kind of story or takeover thing, booked by Triple H, would be a decent thing, And in having it done with the women could be good, because it'd be, I think, the first time it's kind of ever happened like that. Which is bonkers saying that in 2022. I just think it's one of those wait and see kind of things. I guess good for Nikki Cross to kind of have something to do. I've actually always liked Nikki Cross, to be fair. I think she's had a very kind of rough ride, I think, on the main roster. She's had obviously her whole stable kind of get released, two matches. And then she kind of treaded water for a long time. Got a good, decent little tag team, I think, with Alexa Bliss. I thought that was a good thing to do, that kind of thing, that the story that he did, and then kind of did nothing for ages, and then decided she was a superhero. And then Vince liked it because he probably.
Well, she was almost a superhero.
Vince liked it so much.
It was almost over, to be fair, guys. Let's give it that as well. For a little bit, it looked like it was going to do well, but then
she won Money in the Bank and the Women's Championship as that gimmick.
Too much too soon, though.
It was too much too soon. Obviously, Vince probably only just watched, Spider-Man 1 from 2002. What's this?
Book it.
It's got some legs to it.
Yeah.
Wasn't told that it was 20 years old. I think having her involved with this for me, feels like it's a way to move the storyline on from Bianca and Bayley.
Yeah.
You'd hope so.
As well. So we'll get to that match in just a bit. But will we be seeing the end of Damage Control as we know it? Will it be Control Alt Delete for Bianca's time in the group? Right. Let's move on to Drew McIntyre versus Karrion Kross in a steel cage match. Now, this was an interesting one. I've seen, again, mixed things about it online. I wasn't too offended by this one. I thought it was a good one. Maybe it's just because we were doing a watch along with it and it kind of, I was kind of intrigued by what we're doing. as Rob, I think you said yesterday, you would have preferred if the kind of spray happened here, but not last month, sort of thing. I think you were saying, right? So, yeah. So,
do you want me to elaborate?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So my thinking was if they'd have found a different way to get Kross over, and to cheat for that in the strap match, then I think what would have been good was because the door was closed, there would be no way for Scarlett to be involved. So her then pulling out the mace and spraying it through the bars. And I was like, oh, well, that would have been ingenious because she's done something without having to try and throw. How many times have we seen someone try and throw a chair over? And that's guys, and they can't get it over the thing. Do you know what I mean? So and a kendo stick would have been too quick, and I think it would have taken away. So doing it that way in this cage match, I think would have been more impactful. Because then after that, Drew still won. And I was like, well, last time he was blinded. So unless he's got a cure ready in his pants.
In the last few weeks, he's been working on he's just been
in
sitting at home every day going, let me get out of this as quick as I can. Record time,
exactly. So unless he had it in his trunks or something ready, just freedom. It just didn't work for me. And I think just thinking about it, it wound me up that Drew got the win that way. I don't know. I just think because he was supposed to been blinded by mace. Now, I've never been sprayed with it, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say it takes a little bit longer than a couple of minutes to stop stinging. I might be wrong, but
that's
it
the
might be the
nature of
Scottish
pro
blood.
wrestling, isn't it? You forget what happened just a few seconds ago if it fits the narrative of the storyline. But yeah, what about you, Lucas? What do you think of the end, but also of the match overall?
It's the only match I haven't watched.
Oh, all right. And with that, we'll
we'll
move on by. But that's pretty much what happened there, Lucas. A bit of a two at once. If you haven't heard, they both tried to escape the ring at the same time. I like that side of it, and I like the fact that the plan was foiled and didn't quite work for Karrion Kross. And I think I said it quite a lot yesterday as well. Although I felt like a lot of the people I thought should win because I was worried about they'd be damaged if they didn't. They went about a clever way with Bobby Lashley, with Karrion Kross, where it was like, slightly they could have done it and they were angry or they were in control. And so Scarlett,
so she locked the door, so she sprayed the mace on him, and then as he hit, I think he hit Kross with a claymore or something like that. He went to the door, Scarlett locked it, and then when he got up to the top of the cage,
she couldn't unlock
Scarlett
it
then unlocked she then
out.
unlocked it, but took her time, and as Kross got to the door, Drew had dropped down. And I said to Scott, what would have been more effective was, even though she took her time, he'd have bashed through the door and had fallen at the same time. But Drew had just hit just a second quicker, so he got the win. Yeah. So then that way it would have been.
That's like the Rumble. I would say 2005.
Yeah, they're hard to do, man. They're hard to do as well, hard to pull off. So maybe
even if Drew had fallen and he was like 2 or 3 seconds before, it would have been a lot better than Kross was still in the ring. Not even out of the cage. So I just felt like he could have been out of the cage a little bit more.
Yeah.
But,
But I like the spot itself, though. I did think it was a clever way to end it.
I mean, when I saw the result was that he won by escaping, I was quite happy because I dislike cage matches finishing.
Yeah, it was specific that you had to escape, of course.
Was it?
Yeah, they said that before it started, and it was like, then you knew that this meant it wouldn't just be, well, he got out. There was going to be some sort of drama around it as well. So that was a relief because I'm on the same page as you there, because I really enjoyed the escape.
The whole point is,
I know, but it is what it is. Right. Anyway, let's move on to the next match here as well. This is a really good one. I think a lot of people really enjoyed this. The OC, of course, versus the Judgment Day. Now, the only thing with this one is that, for me, Dominik didn't get the pin. I think a lot of us said that it would be great for his character. Speaking of which, we actually haven't gone on to what our predictions were in this as well. So let me quickly recap on those as well. So Dan went for Lashley. The rest of us went for Brock. So we all kind of lost out on this stream here. And we had, what else have we done so far? Well, no, actually, we didn't have any guesses for the next one because it got announced a bit later than after we had done the predictions. We didn't have time to fit into the build-up as an official prediction. So unfortunately, we didn't do that. So I think the next one, was the Cross one. And Dan, myself, and Rob went for Cross. However, Lucas, the only one picking up points there, going for Drew McIntyre as well. Right, let's move on to this next one.
Did you say Dan went for Lashley and we went for Brock?
Yeah.
Yeah. And we got the points then.
Oh, so yeah, you're right. Yeah, I see. I'm just.
I Hey,
That's
don't
how
be cheating me out of any more points, mate.
Hey, that's how effective Lashley's beatdown was. I got to say, there you go. Kudos. That's all I remember out of it. So clearly wasn't damaged too badly with the loss. So, and then after that, of course, going into the match we're going to talk about now, the OC versus the JD. The OC was picked by Dan and Lucas, and Judgment Day was picked by myself and Rob. Now it's Dan and Lucas picking up the points there as well. Lucas, how do you feel about picking up the points, and how did you feel about this match?
Well, what team do I go for again?
You went for the Judgment Day, mate.
Oh, did I? Okay.
That's who did I go for? Judgment Day.
Oh, no. Oh, mate, I'm getting really confused now. You went for the OC. Yeah, so you picked up points. Yeah, so I'm getting confused now. There we go.
I will initiate my rant now in this one then, because...
Oh, we go. Hold on, where's the popcorn? 1 minute.
So, yeah, basically, the number one thing that... This is just... It's actually in all of wrestling now that I'm getting fed up of, is the continued reliance upon interference in matches. It has gone beyond any sort of level of anything now. And it's just really annoying, because I just feel it's one of those things where each time you do it, you take away from the last time that it was done. And because you're seeing this stuff back to back, every match, you know, like we can't be long from just a wrestling show being 2 hours of just everyone just being in the ring, a referee just counting forwards every now and again, following the, you know, having all the weapons, everyone's a lumberjack, everyone's allowed to be back at ringside. Just get with the fans as well, to be fair. Don't need those. Get in the way. So add more wrestlers just brawling in the crowd.
Bring back those weird screens.
Yeah, just everything. Like bring back the Thunderdome.
Yeah, that's it.
Everyone just wants to fight on the outside, use weapons, and interfere in every single match.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point where it's just, you can almost forecast it happening. You know, like the minute Rhea Ripley came out of Judgment Day, you're like, it's interference finish. Like it's just.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I did think it'd be more the Beth Phoenix thing, as we kind of predicted a few of us before as well. And also, you know, I mentioned yesterday, but the comment about the late great Beth Phoenix, you know, with her hair as well. I thought surely something was going to happen there. But you're right. I think it's you know, we're praising Triple H for a lot of these things because, of course, he is a product of the Attitude Era. And as much as I love the Attitude Era, there were a few things wrong with the Attitude Era. Yeah. And I do think this kind of thing was one of the things that plagued that era as well. But I'm a child of the Attitude Era. And because of that, I love things like interferences. But I would agree with you that it is at risk at the moment of becoming too much.
Yeah, I think... I know I didn't do the review thing with Extreme Rules, but my problem with that was every match is being no rules. And it's just... It's too much. Like, you know, how can you care about the 75th chair shot on a show? Yeah. Where everyone just, you know, and then you got the girls beating each other with a baseball bat and not selling it, and it doesn't matter anymore, apparently. You've got people going, you know, the ladder stuff needs to, for me, it's just gone beyond a level of like, this makes sense. It's just, we just do stuff now. But yeah, that was the only thing that irked me with this, because you knew the minute the Rhea Ripley was coming out that the interference was going to happen. The match itself was solid, though. I think, yeah, Priest still sometimes looks a bit lost, like, you know, in the ring. Like, he still looks a bit lost, which is kind of weird. He's almost like the, you know, most tenured green wrestler known to man, in a way, because he's been wrestling for so long, but is still sometimes not very good at it. But, you know, obviously, I think it would have got a bigger pop in America, but obviously anytime Finn and AJ were in the ring, like, it was solid. Obviously, the Saudi fans kind of got it, but I don't think they really understand this whole history that they've obviously got.
I mean, it's only a couple of years ago they asked for Yokozuna to be in the show, so I don't think
that's not necessarily the fans, though. I'm sure there are, but I love the fact that Finn was playing up to it as well with all the two sweet stuff and stuff like that. Like,
there's some interesting combinations of wrestlers in the ring, I felt, and yeah, I enjoyed it. Yeah, I enjoyed it. Interesting seeing the OC obviously lose obviously so soon after kind of coming back. But I get a feeling that obviously this isn't the last we're going to see of this kind of thing. And obviously as we go on to the next PLE, obviously, which obviously is Survivor Series War Games edition. There's quite a lot.
I can't wait to hear your views on that, by the way.
What, Survivor Series?
Yeah, we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, that's coming soon.
That's a rant on its own.
I just feel for me, like, the interference finishes need to be limited to like once, maybe 2 times a show max. You know, if you've got a long shot like this, where you can happily forget about the first one earlier, but it just feels a bit like, you know, you're just trying to cover. I think people almost forget that, look, someone's got to lose. At the end of the day, someone's got to lose. And I guess WWE have always done this thing where they feel they're softening the blow by obviously having interference, DQs or count outs, but you overuse it to the point where you just don't care anymore. Like you're just like, in my you know, part of me in this match just felt, just put Rhea Ripley in the apron with the other team, then have 4-on-3 handicap match. You know, it's like, yeah, you know, again, I don't really like intergender. I'm just like, look, you may just do it because you're doing it anyway. Like you're doing it outside the ring, you know. So just literally put in the ring, and have a face the men on the other side. Like if that's what you're gonna do anyway.
Yeah. What annoys me is exactly what you said, Lucas. So look, I don't mind the interference if it's, for example, if it's Judgment Day, they'll do whatever they can to win. Same with, I guess, let's say Damage Control. They would do what they can to win. That we see it with Evolution. We've seen it with a lot of heel stables, I guess, right? Obviously, that's their philosophy. The Miz is a perfect example. He'll cheat to win. But so I guess with you can get it, makes sense. But what confuses me is they won't have Rhea Ripley in the match, but they'll allow her to pick the guys up like they're a bag of sugar and throw them around the ring and do all this stuff. But they can't do anything back. And it's kind of like, I'd get it if it was Alexa Bliss's size because she's tiny. But Rhea Ripley is, I think, probably bigger than Karl Anderson, like in height and size. So either make me believe or don't. Do you know what I mean? And there is that mindset of put her in it and then make that be something like she's in the match and make her a threat. If they're going to do this thing with how they built China and she's an enforcer, then make that clear. Make that clear. Or don't.
I do say, though, that usually the attraction or the heat a female valet gets, though, is from not being able to get properly a comeuppance or until you build it up. Like, one that I think was done quite well was obviously when Stephanie took the tail bump at Mania a few years back. The pop that got, you know, but the thing is, like, she, for ages before that, was not touched at all by a single person, you know, for so long. And there was moments where, you know, you could be thinking, oh, someone's RKO her, someone just give her a stunner, someone, you know what I mean? Like, but it would have made the moment at the end when obviously she went to that table mean much less because you would have seen it too often. Yeah. And that was the issue they had in the Attitude Era, where you constantly had, you know, China able to fight men and get her comeuppance too often. Whereas now I guess they're swung it completely the other way. But yeah, they have got to make a decision. It'd be interesting what they do because, you know, there are people who think that Rhea should face men.
Yeah, I mean, and that's it. The different kind of characters, though. You know, Stephanie was like the whole kind of, you know, little kind of evil, you know, get away with it. And in Rhea, they are portraying her, as Rob's saying, like as this kind of like I could beat up any man. You know, like that. Like she's the big beast within the women's division, one of the bigger kind of, you know, the women, the way she's presented at least. You know, so so it's a bit different, but
I just think that. She's, as you said, look, she's, to use a wrestling term as you did, Lucas, like, she's the heater, right? So she's the one that's getting all this heat, building all this energy up from the crowd, getting all the boos. Now, if that was Scarlett with Karrion Kross, I'll believe it. 100% believe it. Because she's small and she's petite in size, right? And in frame. But Rhea isn't built that way. And I'm not saying that's a problem, because she looks great. But if she's that kind of built, either put her in a position where she can wrestle the guys, or don't put her in that position where she's too fragile to be attacked by the guys. Because she's not. And that's the thing. She really isn't. As I said, she picked up AJ and dropped him on the side of the ring. So she can do that. So
I think the first part, though, is more the fact that Scarlett's not a wrestler. Well, in WWE terms, she's not a wrestler. Yeah. I think, the build part comes into to a certain extent. But I think the fact that Rhea Ripley is presented as a wrestler versus Scarlett, who presented very much as a valet, creates that difference for me. But I think, it's the thing is they're treading on ground they don't want to tread on because they've said previously they don't want to do intergender stuff.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have to imagine there's a lot of red tape around it, particularly with obviously their TV contracts and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And they've shown zero interest in doing it, like, you know, for years now. Can't actually remember like the last non-comedy match. You know, of Mel's.
The last time The last time I would say there was an attack was the Nia Jax stuff. Randy Orton.
Yeah,
and,
Randy and Nia.
Yeah,
all that, and the Rumble.
Ellsworth lose face. He lost to Becky Lynch, didn't he? I think, didn't he?
Yeah. But that was just a comedy.
That's like comedy as well, though. Yeah,
but they've not presented man versus woman.
Not an incredible kind of not like Impact did basically. A few years ago. But I think to be fair to WWE, the tonic to this entire situation is Beth Phoenix, because she is she was portrayed in the same way within the women's division. She, although had some comedy bits, she also had some things up against men. She had a Rumble appearance and stuff like that as well. So, to be fair to them, there is that, and they are leading towards that, surely. So at some point, you got to do that. I guess just while Beth's away, it's just where you tread with Rhea within. I think
the thing that takes it away from Rhea though, and again, it's a genetic thing. She's just really tall. So when you compare her to Beth Phoenix, you're talking about muscle size and the fact that she's a bigger woman. But when she stands,
she's presented as really tall.
She just
within the women's division, she is. But she's
against the men, she isn't. But because she picked up AJ, she picked up AJ and just dropped him on the corner of the ring.
This is where you realise they all build their heights though so much.
Yeah.
How is 5'7" Rhea Ripley about the same size as alleged 6 foot tall AJ Styles?
Exactly, and I think that's that issue of, if you're gonna portray her to be able to do this stuff and be a muscle and get this heat,
I think
make that shown. Do you know what I mean? Don't make her fragile.
Yeah. I think what Scott just said might be the direction they're going in a sense of, okay, they let Rhea do stuff with the, to beat up the men kind of thing, but the comeuppance will be Beth Phoenix will come back and she will get to do it the other way. That'll be the teller for me. I think if obviously essentially if Rhea Ripley is just going to beat up guys and there's no like it seems that there's no intergender match kind of going to happen, obviously they could change their mind, but it does seem very much with the WWE that we know that's not going to happen. So either she beats up guys forever and gets no comeuppance, or just get a comeuppance in the sense of like the table bump Stephanie, or they can have Beth come back and be able to do stuff against the Judgment Day, obviously the men of the Judgment Day. Like definitely Finn, I guess. Priest will be a bit hard because he is huge. Like it's crazy, he is huge. But I guess then obviously set up the Rhea Beth match potentially. They could even, depending on how fast they want to go with this, they could even look to have some sort of big mixed kind of 4-on-4 match, maybe at Survivor Series War Games. Could be not in the War Games structure potentially, but again, that's something we've got to obviously think about. I guess, are they going to have Survivor tag matches as well as games?
Yeah.
Or is it just War Games? They've got one men's, one women's. Is it 5? Is it 5 wrestlers or 4?
They've announced it as 5. Yeah.
Okay, so potentially they could have a 4-on-4. I guess it all just depends. I guess a lot of it just depends on A, where they want to go with this, and B, how much Beth wants to do. She's obviously integral to a lot of this, but I think definitely there's money in a Beth and Rhea match. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, when she got back involved, Beth, it was, me and Rob were discussing at the time, what's next then? Are we going straight into Beth versus Rhea? Are we going to go into a multi-team match, mixed gender, and then it breaks off from there because, and they kind of put it on hold because of the OC, but surely it's coming back to that. But even still, does it come back to the legends?
If I was in Triple H right now, I would be on my way. I think they live in Canada, don't they? Edge and Beth Phoenix. I'll be on my way to their house and say, look, Beth, here's a check. Here's a number. Put how many zeros you want after it. You're going to be the head. No, you're going to be the head trainer for the women at the Performance Center full time, and you're going to be a full time wrestler because, we need Beth Phoenix. It's ridiculous that she somehow retired so young and is still so good and has so many more years ahead of her if she wishes to do so. And if that conversation can exist, and she can still turn around and say, with respect, I want to look after my kids and my family, then fair enough. But if I'm Triple H right now, that's what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy? We're having this conversation about how great Beth is when you've got all these other women that have been or past or present, and she's still at that level. It's crazy.
I think it's that retiring young thing. It always kind of irks people because it's the thing is similar with the Punk thing, to be fair. Obviously, the first time around he stopped, he was just about turning 40. There was just too much of the fan base able to go, oh, come on, you could come back, mate. I think he's actually mid-30s, actually, wasn't he? He's only mid-40s now, isn't he?
Yeah.
But you just like, there's all that stuff, fan base going, come on, we know you've got more in you. And the same thing with Beth, where you're just like, we know you've got more in you. Like, we've seen it. Like, you had the match at Rumble, you've had matches since, where you've done stuff. And it's just like, we want to see more of that. And definitely Beth's someone who I think, the fans, would be up for seeing more of. But I don't know whether that's a discussion that has even happened, or whether it's just kind of known that, okay, Beth wants to look after her family and she didn't want to be a full-time wrestler.
Yeah.
But even in the gap when she wasn't signed to WWE, I think during COVID, when obviously she kind of didn't, I think she either let her deal lapse or whatever it was. Like, this is where I think lots of people were screaming for her to go over to AEW and become the head trainer / producer for the women's stuff over there, because boy, that needs a lot of help, that women's division over there. Because Beth, I think she can be a really integral part to the overall presentation, the overall women's brand, I guess. And even you could argue if they want to go down the road of this mid-card title, give Beth Phoenix a mid-card title for the women.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a way to get prestige early on, ain't it? I mean, I think you're right. There's the possibility that, like you say, they could give her a role like that. And again, we don't know what circumstances are and what she wants to do. But with Edge winding down, could it be a matter of they kind of tag in and tag out? Who's the mainstay at home for a bit? With Edge kind of seeming, next year wants to wrap up. Could that mean we do get a few years with Beth, or would she be like, you know what? Actually, why am I going to go back? I've finally got all of us off the road. Let's kind of stick to what we got. So yeah, it's interesting to see, but I know what you mean from a business point of view. If you're Triple H, and if you're from our point of view as a fan, then hey, that's the offer I'd be making as well. I'm going to quickly get to a few of these comments as well. Cameron's been asking, did he get any points in this match because he also went from the Judgment Day, mate? Of course, if you're unaware, the way these points work on here, we basically run it like season to season, and 4 of us core people on the podcast basically do our predictions every month before the PLE, and we have a table for it. But hey, if you went for Judgment Day, Cameron, then you'd be up there getting points as well. And he also wants to know, Rob, did you wash your mask after last night? You were talking about it getting a bit grotty. Cameron, I'm going to answer that for you. Of course he didn't. He's a dirt bag.
He's bagging him. He's probably not. Hot water.
Sounds like Founder Jackson's making an appearance. No, so the mask is being washed tomorrow because we'll go out washing it. Colours are tomorrow. So
all right then. I'm surprised I was just going to wash it.
Just about to ask. You said Lucas and Dan got points, but I went for OC. Surely it was me and you that got points.
No, I mixed it up earlier. Then I mixed it up again. Okay, yeah, OC won. So yeah.
No,
who
OC
won?
didn't win. Judgment Day.
Hey, that's Dan. I'm telling you, Dan's written it down as OC.
Judgment Day won.
Judgment Day did win.
Yeah,
yes.
Mate, I think he's added up these points wrong as well. We may not be able to do the tally at the end of this because I've relied on Dan there.
I definitely got points for that.
Dan, what have you done?
His throat's.
I know. Oh, right. Okay. We might have to leave the points off here later on.
Cool. VAR
we've judged this and what Dan sent me here. So, right. Anyway, let's move on. I don't know. He might use different notes for that. We'll see. Anyway, we're going to move on to the next match. And we are going to talk about Braun Strowman versus Omos. We touched on it a little bit earlier on, so we don't need to go too much in depth here. To be completely honest, mate, I didn't see much of this, did I? Because I was sorting out some issues with my audio as well. So I saw a bit at the end at the background. I heard you ranting and raving, Rob, I guess you could be a Bob, as much as how much you enjoyed it. But yeah, I'll let you two take over on this one.
I'll give it quick. I like this. This is a bit of me though. This kind of stuff. I think people want to scrub back. We're talking about Braun streaks after this, but anyway, it links into what I'm saying now thing in the sense of I understand this is a different style of wrestling essentially, and I do agree that it kind of is overlooked as particularly in the past, big men have been kind of known for being clunky and slow and aren't the same kind of moves. And while we did see some of that in this match, I think that it's definitely the best. Annoyingly, MVP wasn't there. But I guess if MVP, in some ways, part of me was so happy MVP wasn't there, as it meant this match had no interference. Because if MVP was there, there would have been interference. Let's be real, because that's just how this thing worked. But I think, I think the presentation-wise was very good, and they did that press conference thing, and I honestly don't understand the obsession they have with hand and shoe size in WWE. Like it's like actually
don't say that, because Rob was well impressed when he saw that graphic. So that's why they do it.
47 quadruple E. I was like, whoa, man, where'd you get his Air Force Ones from? That's what I want to know.
And it kept, again, I don't know if there is. It's annoying. We don't know yet. Do Triple H scream things down people's ears like Vince used to? But I get a feeling that the word skillet was something they kept wanting to have mentioned, because Omos's hand being the size of a skillet was mentioned.
I love a skillet, man. Great for chicken.
During the entrances alone. And he's like, you can say something else, mate. Like, you can do something else. Weird reference to use. Like, everyone just knows what's, everyone looks in their drawer and goes, oh, yeah, skillet. I know. I know how big that is. But yeah, we get and it was still very weird seeing Braun Strowman like dwarfed, because I think the issue they've got now is they've got a legitimate 7'3" guy. They build obviously giants in the past, haven't they?
Mm-hmm.
A bit like when Big Show and Shaq had their little showing off a few years back. And obviously Shaq is legitimately like 7'3", 7'4", isn't he? And Big Show obviously would build a 7 foot, but depending on which report, it seems like he's still a big guy, obviously.
Depends on what lifts he had in his shoes.
Around the 6'10", pushing 6'11" kind of mark, and so it was noticeable when he's next to Shaq, who obviously is legitimately 7'3". But yeah, it was weird seeing Braun kind of dwarfed. I think the match was done quite well. I liked Omos getting a personality in the ring, like getting some kind of back talk and stuff. And I think the finish was good, like how it came out of nowhere. Basically, because they presented Omos very, very. They did a very good job every match of basically making everyone look good. I think this pay-per-view. But yeah, I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, what's not to like? Two big men smacking meat. I mean, where can you go wrong? I would rate that 5 stars out of 5, 47 times. I think that's the right way. But yeah, no, look, I enjoyed it for what it was, and I said what I really enjoyed was the way they used Omos's momentum against him for the finish. He hit the corner, and as he bounced off, Braun used that as a way to lift him up, as opposed to trying to strain to lift him. So it showed that he can lift him, but we don't know if he can struggle yet, because he didn't do it from a standing position, like a dead still standing position. He used it from a momentum. And I think if you can use someone's momentum on them and get the victory that way, it's clever, because it doesn't make Braun it doesn't make Braun look weak as in trying to lift him. It's just a pick up and like a lift and slam. I think that was easier, because when we see, let's say for example, Hogan versus Andre, that slam, okay, it wasn't the best, and obviously it's an iconic moment, but it was from a dead still position, and we didn't get that. We got it with Cesaro. I think was it Cesaro and Big Show at the Greatest Royal Rumble. We got that moment, or something, or it was it Andre the Memorial Battle Royal, and we got that moment, and even then it looked weird because it's from a standing. So I think because it's a running power slam as well, using the momentum from the corner and picking him up, I think it was a great finish. I enjoyed it, and I have not much to moan about. I think I didn't want either man to win. I think that was the thing. I think it just made. I don't really see where they can go booking wise. However, I will say Omos looked fantastic in his attire.
That's cool.
It looked great, man. So I'm all for it. If anything we get out of this, as long as Omos doesn't get lost in a shuffle, then great. I don't want to see him 6 weeks down the line trying to get the 24/7 title. Like, he's better than that. And excuse the pun, but he's bigger than that. So, but yeah, like I said, 47.5 out of 5 stars down.
Nice. All right. So yeah, I quite enjoy the bits I did see out of it. As I said, not much of it. We've got a few comments here as well from Cameron saying Dan has been on the beer. Well, he actually doesn't drink, so I don't know what happened there. But
too many
Timothy Lemsits. I'm just going through the scores at the moment. I think he's got the scores right, to be fair. So we'll double check with that. But I think he just writ it wrong on that thing as well. He says, remember last night, Rob, when we were talking about Brayage? Of course, we'll talk about Brayage later on as well. And he says the Braun Strowman and Omos match was Goliath versus Goliath. That's a good point, actually.
Did you catch what Wade Barrett said, which was beautiful? I don't know if it was fed to him down on the earpiece, but he said, and I may butcher it, so excuse the butchering, but he said, giants are real, monsters are not. And I was like, how fantastic is that you book Braun as a monster, but now you've got a giant beating the monster?
Yeah,
that is such clever way to play how big both guys are.
Yeah,
and kind of downplay Braun.
I'll sidebar that and say the commentary was actually really good in general.
Wade Barrett was fantastic, wasn't he?
Yeah, Wade's a fantastic addition. It'll be interesting what happens when McAfee returns.
We were discussing that we reckon. Yeah, we said it could be a 3-man booth, keeping Wade as the heel, McAfee as the really good face, and Michael Cole being the in-between guy. So breaking them two up, which, I reckon it could work.
Yeah, I mean, I'd quite like them to do what I think AEW do at the moment, where they kind of have a third commentator for just the last bit or whatever. I think that having two is good. They need to get rid of Kevin Patrick, though. Jesus.
Not a fan, no.
No, not a fan. I really like Jimmy Smith. I'll say it.
I liked him as well.
I thought that he was... Yeah, I thought he added like a realness to it in a way. And I thought his voice was nice because Byron and Corey sound very similar.
That was I like Byron, though.
Yeah, I didn't. I think I didn't really like Corey Graves' act around him. And they went for the awkward phase. Remember when Corey Graves was commentating both brands? And he just like... Yeah, I mean, look, Michael Cole, like, he's a fantastic commentator, I think, personally. But obviously, he has just been doing the WWE for so many years that he's obviously forgotten. And he was never, people need to remember, he was never a wrestling commentator. He was a journalist. He was a news journalist, He went to war zones. He interviewed and stuff like that. So he never came from wrestling background.
Not the war zone as in on the Raw, but...
I'll tell you what, though. What changed for me, Michael Cole, is when he done his heel run and he had the coal mining corner, right? And it was annoying, but it was a different side of Michael Cole. But since Pat McAfee's been allowed to have more freedom when he was on the commentary booth, Michael Cole become a completely different commentator. And I think without Pat McAfee, we wouldn't have got that side of Michael Cole. And now he's getting that same reaction with Wade Barrett. I think he's fallen in love with commentating over wrestling again in a completely different way.
Yeah,
it's great.
It must be nice though, not without obviously having to scream.
Yeah, it's that skillet, damn it.
I think the commentating was very, very good. Picking this match, I think they sold obviously both these guys as these massive kind of guys. I think going forward, I guess that it's just more to cement like Braun's back. I think he's kind of been treading water for a little bit. Omos, it does seem like he's the giant they will set up on TV as a big guy, and he'll lose obviously his kind of match on the event. I guess they've done that 2 or 3 times now. I guess he lost to Lashley, didn't they?
Yeah.
Now lost.
Thing is, as a big guy, when you take them losses, if we can't come back from them, and I think coming back would have been beating Braun Strowman. I mean, who else does he know? Who'd you put Omos against now and give him back that credibility of being a monster or being a giant?
Honestly, I was into NXT. Because let's be real, he could do some more obviously in-ring training anyway, and that's where the Performance Center is. And B, because it's a whole group of wrestlers who he hasn't obviously had to interact with.
Yeah.
And NXT, booking wise, is kind of set in his kind of ways, but this would change it up a bit because you've got a guy who would need to be booked very, very differently from everything else that's going on. Yeah. And potentially then as well, you create that separation because if you've got Braun on the main roster, you have your giant on NXT as well. Do you know what I mean?
So I said something similar, but I said keeping them on different shows. So the only time they're allowed to touch or meet again is 2 things: Royal Rumble to build it, right? And then do not let them keep them on separate shows, brand them off to different places, Raw and SmackDown.
But then they won't
NXT, whatever. Yes, but don't let them meet again in that ring. Keep making them monstrous on both shows. Build it up, and then when it comes to Survivor Series, Monster vs Monster, and have that build there because you've got a year-long build then without them even having to do anything and comparing them.
Yeah, I agree with you in heart, but it would mean that I think they'd have to at some point address. There's a lot of elephants in the room that Triple H needs to address, and that's another one of them. To add to his list, he needs to address this brand split stuff. Like, does it matter anymore?
Exactly, because this is what we said earlier.
They cancelled the draft from September. There's rumors about it coming back after WrestleMania, where it used to be, back in the 2000s. But yeah, this was the thing. Like, in order for a lot of these things to happen, they need to make a decision one way or the other. And I think Triple H is kind of exploring his options at the moment, seeing kind of where he can take certain things, which makes sense, I guess, to have the kind of consultation period or whatever. But you've got to make a decision, and it's a case of same thing I feel with the interference. It's a case of now Triple H got to determine, okay, can we do anything about this, like from a booking perspective or from at least on-screen perspective, where you know you've got. I just find this stuff happened less when you had like general managers and you had, you know, things like that, like an authority kind of thing, you know, previously, because there was this kind of expectation that there'd be a comeuppance or repercussion for those actions, whereas now it's kind of a free for all. But yeah,
people just walk over Adam Pearce, and that's the problem. Adam Pearce and Sonya.
Yeah, it's the thing, and they've decided that that's the way they're going with that authority figure. And they're not happy to keep things just a thing. But again, Triple H has got to make a choice. He's got to say to his booking and creative team, look, we're not going to be doing this interference every single match now. We're not going to, so I don't want to be seeing, I'm going to tell you every PLE, we have 8 matches. I'm going to tell you the one match I want interference.
Yeah.
And then the other matches, you have to come up with different finishes. You can't just come back to me and say, oh, for a change, let's have interference. Oh, here interfere in this, interfere that. But until I kind of think, and same with this brand thing, it's a case of, okay, while it'd be nice to do the Braun and thing almost on different brands, they'd have to make an announcement saying, okay, the brand split rules are back in effect. We're going to, again, then they've got to get the bigger elephant in the room, obviously, with the main title and the tag titles, obviously being joined and unified. They've got to make a choice. They've got to make a thing. But at the moment, they're not going to do that because they know they can't get away with putting Reigns on just one brand because the networks are not going to be happy with that.
Yeah.
And Reigns is part-time also, which confounds it even more. And the Bloodline's the hottest thing in wrestling. So they're going to have to be on both shows regardless.
Yeah.
It's very tricky.
It's kind of backed into a corner, but I think if Triple H can figure that stuff out, work it out. And I feel, yes, Triple H is a guy for factions, but if you watch NXT, he had a general manager. So I think all of this stuff that we're talking about, general managers, Raw and a SmackDown, and all this sort of stuff, separate titles again. After all this Bloodline stuff's happened and it's finished, I think we're going to revert back to, we're going to have a Raw and a SmackDown. It will then have Survivor Series will have this meaning, and Hell in a Cell is for this big match, and TLC will be for this moment. And I think they'll revert back to that. But as you said, he's in the middle of making all these decisions. When they're done and it's finalized, I think we'll be praying or, saying how great Triple H is and, blowing smoke up here, there, and everywhere because of how good he's now got it in the way it's supposed to be. Because he had a fantastic job at NXT before Vince took over. NXT, I mean, you can't complain about it.
No, definitely. It was a highlight of the company for me for so long. But hey, that's been and gone. We might be seeing a lot of those kind of influences, like you say, on the main roster, as it said, these days as well. I understand, Lucas, sadly, you got to leave us now as well. So going to thank you for joining us for the time that you have. But before you do get out of here, just to leave us with a little bit of a pipe bomb or a bombshell, any way you want to put it, I'm going to ask you quick thoughts on the Usos Brawling Brutes match, quick thoughts on the Bianca versus Bayley, and quick thoughts on Roman versus Logan. If you could sum them up in a sentence or two, that'd be fantastic.
I really like the Usos and Brawling Brutes match. I did think it'd be a kind of show stealer potential anyway. I must admit, I'm not a massive fan of Pete Dunne in general, but I do like the team. I really like Rich Holland in particular. I thought, they've done a good job of him. The Usos, obviously, they were going to retain. It didn't feel like there was like a jeopardy of them losing here. I know they're going towards obviously SmackDown having the longest reign of that, but we are getting to the point. I'll link this in with the main event where the Bloodline have to lose a championship. They have to lose one. Something has to give now.
Yeah,
too much. It's too long. And the fact is, it's a problem we're seeing these guys every single show do the same promo, same match. Like the match are really good. I can't fault them, but it's can someone just win now?
Something needs to be fresh.
They're not going to do it at Roman, obviously, that's the WrestleMania. And we get that, we understand. But the Usos, can we just lose now? Can it be done? At least we get that way and then split the tag belts up and actually have tag matches on both shows. Bianca versus Bayley I thought was awful. I think last man standing stuff needs to stop anyway. It's too slow a match. How WWE choose to do it is a chore to watch. There's some very dangerous stuff in there as well, like the bump Bayley took off the golf cart and missed the table. I think it was the wrong decision booking wise to have Bianca retain. But if it links into what we said earlier, with the potential new direction for Damage Control and having Nikki Cross involved and moving on his own separate thing, I guess it does make sense, kind of isolated. But yeah, I do think that, Last Man Standing, I Quit, they're just these matches that essentially they're the same thing of just like, has to be like big move, and it's so slow and clunky, setting everything up. And I guess that's that wild side of seeing them brawl in the crowd and seeing them brawl on the stage. And Last Man Standing matches, they have a running thing now, having a vehicle of some sort involved. I don't know if that's intentional, but it just seems like every single one's like that. But yeah, for me, it's just not for me. And I think definitely I don't see how they can get Bayley another shot. Like, you lost a ladder match and a thing like what they have next, like a three. Oh God, hope he's not listening and plays 3 Stages of Hell or something, won't they? 60-minute, no rules, no ropes, no ring, just moves on on the mats or whatever. But no, it wasn't a fan. I thought Logan and Roman was excellent. I know that obviously there's a section of the fan base that are always going to dislike Logan Paul. I do think some of that's because of his non-wrestling contributions to the world. Let's put it that way. So the stuff he's done basically pre this year, which is a lot of stuff, if anyone who wants to, sure there's abundance of YouTube videos that you can watch, obviously, basically telling you the stuff that the Paul brothers have got up to. But I think in terms of isolating this match, this performance, I think it was a very good performance. Obviously, there's some stuff that he struggles with, but I think the thing he has going for him is that he is ridiculously athletic. Like, his leapfrogs and his springboards. Like, I'm actually worried. The match I actually want to see very soon will be him versus Montez Ford.
Wow.
Imagine the athleticism in that match. Like, I genuinely think they could do something like truly fantastic. And thinking about how athletic he is as well, I know sadly the outcome obviously looks like he's going to have surgery and stuff, and he might not make the Rumble. But imagine some of the elimination saves he could potentially do.
Yeah.
But I legit think that letting have to maybe jump just from the stage into the ring.
The new Kofi and Jomo spot. Yeah.
I think that there's lots of the future is bright for him, and I get a lot of the hate that people are going to have against him, but I think that we need to kind of just dial it back and be like, well, in terms of this show, it was the attraction match, and if it wasn't Logan Paul losing to Roman Reigns, it would have been Kevin Owens, Seth Rollins, insert the babyface here of the people that would be buried from taking the loss, and the internet would hate. So it's a case of you can't have it both ways. Like, you're gonna hate him for beating someone who's a star, who was more of a full-time wrestler, but you're also gonna hate the fact he beat a YouTuber. So it's like you can't hate everything. But looking at this match, it was really, really good. The only problem I had was that I felt the ending was very messy. It was good. I guess it was good, but again, like on a show where we've already seen interference in almost every single match, and coming off a pay-per-view where we'd had basically no rules and nothing mattered, last month, it's just, and obviously even Clash at the Castle, obviously when we had Solo Sikoa, like, it is just turning into, okay, Roman versus a person will be 20 minutes of a good wrestling match, and then 10 minutes of every other person on the roster coming out one by one, it seems, and, interfering. That's what it feels like, because it's happening every single show, and this is why something needs to change in the Bloodline. But I know they're not going to do it yet because obviously it's making money. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I did enjoy the show overall, but just had those things about definitely interference, and with the Bianca Bayley match being the wrong decision. But the tag match I thought was really on point.
Perfect, mate. And on that note, been on point having you on the stream once again. Really do appreciate it, man. And thank you for there's a lot to unpack there, but I'm sure me and Rob will do it as we go along, mate. Good to see you, and we'll catch you again soon, mate. Take care.
Yeah.
All right. So once again, thank you for Lucas coming along. What we're going to do now, we're going to carry on going match per match for myself and Rob. Of course, a lot of this we spoke about yesterday already on our instant reaction podcast. So after this, please check that out as well, because we'll mention kind of our kind of scattered thoughts at the time, straight after the PLE finished. Now we're doing it with a little bit of hindsight as well. Some opinions will change. Some of them I'm sure will get a bit stronger as well. So what we'll do now, we'll backtrack a little bit there from what Lucas was talking about, and we'll ourselves dive into one of those matches that he was talking about there, which of course was the Usos versus the Brawling Brutes. Now, we were saying yesterday, Rob, that again we really enjoyed this match. You know, I don't think there's room for a bad Usos match these days. It was incredible, and seeing the other two go up against them when they've been so over as well was great. And we said quite a lot of it, you know, lately in the build up to it. It didn't seem like it was going to happen for them, just because usually under usual circumstances they probably would have been given the titles at this point in a team's kind of overness. Do you know what I mean? But because they are not split titles at the moment, because this is a bloodline situation, and because Sheamus weren't there as well to kind of give him the little congratulation nod on the ramp, it didn't seem the time or place. But in another kind of alternate universe of WWE, I could see this happening. So yeah, a bit of a shame on that front as far as the progression for the Brawling Brutes, because I'm not quite sure what happens to him next. But I quite enjoyed this match. How do you feel about it 24 hours removed, mate?
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed it for what it was. Because I think they were building something before this for two things. So one, Sheamus wasn't there, and I don't think the Brawling Brutes were gonna win without Sheamus being there. That was my first thing, and we said that on air as we were watching it through the stream. It wouldn't be right for the Brawling Brutes to win without Sheamus being there, at least to come down to the ring. So the first thing that swayed me was Usos are winning. The next thing though was on SmackDown just before this, the night before. The New Day were there, and they were going to challenge them. If the Usos won, they were challenging them for a match at SmackDown because of the lengthy record that the Usos have of the tag titles, and the Usos, and the New Day have. So the Usos have the longest singular reign of 476 plus days for their fifth reign, and they have the longest combined rate of 856 plus days. Obviously, the New Day broke a record. I'm just trying to find it now. If someone in the comments knows how long they were tag champs for, let me know. Obviously, it's a combined length. But I know the Usos broke the record for the longest on SmackDown. I believe the New Day held it for Raw. Obviously, combined, they're close. Or I think on Friday, Usos will surpass that combined record.
So are we getting that match then? Usos versus New Day?
Usos versus New Day. I think
that's cool. There's a little bit of a jeopardy to it. I don't think the Usos will be losing their titles there. I think it's a great way to acknowledge that thing and kind of give a bit of jeopardy to the match as well. I like that.
Yeah.
Going back to this one, I think the end of it, we were quite big fans of, weren't we? You know, the fact they kind of did that 1D, because remember we were like double splash, like what are they going to do to win? Completely forgetting about the 1D. Not only was it a 1D, it was kind of a super 1D, weren't it? So
because they set up, and I was thinking, it's going to be a super Samoan drop, like the way, which I thought great. What a good way to finish. Completely forgot about the 1D because their normal finish is a super kick followed by the Uso splash. And I'm not opposed to that at all. Like, at least they have a legitimate finish as a tag team. Some tag teams don't. And then all of a sudden, they literally dug out the 1D out of their bag of moves to get a finish. And I was like, well, it shows how much they had to do to put away the Brawling Brutes. So
it makes
yes, they won, but
it
put the Brawling Brutes over big time as they're a legitimate tag team without Sheamus.
Yeah,
and
continuing to grow. It will be interesting to see where they go next with it as well. Maybe they'll run off to a new feud. Maybe this will continue for a little bit as well. But of course, they are going to be distracted by the New Day coming this week. Cameron says New Day rocks. Yes, they do, mate. It's always been fun watching the New Day, and it's interesting seeing them kind of still work through as the New Day without Big E as well. So that's been an interesting way to do it. He also says Sami Zayn versus Roman Reigns undisputed title. We've been talking about this for a while, that maybe we could be going there, but we'll talk a bit more of that later on. What are you going to say there, Rob?
Yeah, it's strange because obviously with if Big E does return, we don't know the status on Big E at the moment. We know he done a promo for an advert for Wendy's, and it looked good.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy to see.
With it, yeah.
if he's getting physical and being able to lift something of any aspect, good. That means he's healing and he's on a road to recovery. How much he's recovered, and if he's recovered enough to be in a ring, is another story, obviously, as we know. But I think if the Usos were to lose the titles, and it's going to be to someone, imagine New Day beating the Usos for the titles, and then Big E just comes out of nowhere to celebrate, ready to wrestle, or something. Imagine that.
I just think he needs that. He needs to return to maybe save him or something like that. The music needs to hit, or return at a Rumble or something like that. That's I don't think he needs to come back to celebrate. I think he needs to come back
imagine if the Usos put it in a perspective. Obviously, it's a fantasy booking, but this is how I want to see the Usos lose it. Let's say, for example, they know that they're going against the New Day again. So let's say, for example, they take out Woods before the match. Kofi's on his own, and all of a sudden, he's like, I'll do it on my own. Then the New Day music hits, and Big E just comes out, and he's ready to go. And then they win it. I'm happy. I'd take that as a finish. But yeah, I mean, again, as Lucas was saying, who takes the titles off the New Day? The titles have got to go sometime. It's got to be someone, and it ain't going to be the New Day on Friday for sure, because if they're talking about this record so much, they can't lose it on the day, because that would be ridiculous.
Not when you've got two records going on in the bloodline. You can't lose one of them. I think the day will come, or should come, where the Usos lose their titles and Reigns that's again a new element to that story. But something needs to change, as Lucas said earlier on. But whether or not it does anytime soon, hard to tell. No, Lucas, to be fair, was quite harsh on this match, I felt. It's a shame he had to run off, because I was actually a real big fan of this. I completely agree with his points about a last man standing match, last women standing match in this sense. And we mentioned it a lot through the watch along yesterday. But again, maybe it was the fact that we were watching it live with each other, with the people that were on the stream. Once again, thank you for everyone that did join us on the watch along. If you want to demand, of course, it's still on this channel to do so as well, if you want to see our reactions to things as they went down. But we really enjoyed it. I do agree with him that spot through the table was a risky one, and the golf cart, as though it was funny, was a bit hit and miss as well. But I think they did it well. I think the ending was kind of genius. I've seen some people say that Bianca shouldn't have done that. That's a heel move. I think, did you say something like that yesterday as well? So, but I feel like I don't know, because it's like you just got to do what you could do, man. It's all within the rules. So
this is the thing, right? And it's kind of a double standard in wrestling of terms anyway, because if the heel does it, people are like, well, the heel done it, I expect it. But then if Bianca done it, people are saying, that's a heel move. However, earlier on, about an hour ago, we were talking about Brock Lesnar winning this way, and it being absolutely fine with laying flat. And that's a small guy move, but people are saying it's good. So you can't do one thing for a big guy and say, that's fine, and then an ingenious way to win a match. Then we have a new ingenious way to win a match, and people moan about it, saying it's a heel thing to do. Like, I don't. Where's the line there? Like, where's the boundary for?
Yeah.
I mean, yes, if a heel done it, it would make sense because it's out of desperation. But isn't the face also desperate to win the match? I mean, it's the last one. So what difference is it if, John Cena duct taped Batista? No one complained about that. I mean, we got out the duct tape moment from it. However, there wasn't an issue with that. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's been we've had a lot worse finishes in these matches.
I thought it was
I think that was ingenious.
Used in a different way. It's interesting because Lucas didn't really touch on the finish. So it'd be interesting to hear what he thinks of the actual finish itself. But wasn't much of a fan of the match. It seems like Cameron's in a similar boat here as well. So I think the last women's standing match was a little slow and tedious as well. So I can. Hey, I think again, maybe we were caught up in the moment at the time. I do think that last women's standing, last men's standing, whatever it's going to be named for that match. It can be that way, but I feel like yesterday's one weren't as bad. I feel like we've maybe fallen here for a little bit of preconceived kind of opinions of the match type. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it was.
We said it was match of the night.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it.
But what it was, I mean,
and they're hard to do because they are tedious. But I thought it was quite good. I think it's time now to move on. Before we get into the main event, let's talk a little bit of Brayage there as well, Rob. We mentioned it yesterday, of course. It was basically just a promo, a good one at that. And we had the flirt in of kind of a potential kind of involvement of Alexa Bliss again earlier on. Now, to be fair, we touched on this quite a lot yesterday, so I would suggest going back and watching our instant reaction podcast as well, because again, that was a kind of our freshest thoughts on all this. And I think, to be honest, with this one especially, we'll be kind of treading old ground quite a bit. But just generally speaking, mate, other than what we've said on the instant reaction podcast, any other extra thoughts? And I'm sure there's, Twitter's been a buzz of this kind of thing as well, because Bray always brings a lot of conversation. What have you seen as far as reaction to this segment online?
Strangely, I haven't looked. Normally, I'm like, the minute
I guess it's because not much happened with it, and that's exactly what I kind of thought it would be and hoped it would be as well. That let's not rush this, but it literally could have been on SmackDown, and it was all right. Like, it was good. And the video was good. I think my main takeaway from it was that it was so much about family. And it has to be going towards Bo Dallas. Like, it has to.
The thing is, again, when we talk about family, are we talking, and I think this is what I enjoyed, are we talking Wyatt family, which was Harper, Rowan, and Strowman?
Mm-hmm.
Are we talking the Wyatt 6 that's around, or whatever that is, right? Or it's now been coined the Wyatt 6. Just because that's his Twitter. There's Firefly buddies, right? And the Funhouse. Are we talking Alexa Bliss? Are we talking the Rotundas? Just because it said family, that doesn't specify
I think it is.
anything.
I think it is the Rotundas. I think, because he said I haven't really spoken about this before. He kind of acknowledged that as well. So I think it is. I know what you're saying. It could have many double meanings and layers to it, but I think this time they are alluding to who he really is. And it's. I mean, here's a comment here that mentions it. Jonesy chats wrestling. Thanks for joining us, Jonesy. It was a good PPV. The Bray Wyatt thing is dragging. That is the big fear. I feel like they had to put him on the show just because of the buzz around them. But this could have been on a SmackDown. And at some point, my big fear has been that it will drag too much. I think we said earlier, before he came back, and it was kind of heavily kind of alluded to that it would be him. There was like, well, he kind of needs to just stay away from everyone, because if he goes into the Roman thing, that will be dangerous for him. And if he goes in anywhere else, he kind of don't fit. They've kind of signed him and been like, we got to do something. But at the same time, we can't kind of drag it on too long as well. So Jonesy follows up with... he just rants nonsense. They are booking themselves into a corner like they did with Alexa and Bray last time. See, that is the big fear with that one as well. Cameron agrees. And of course, they are kind of, again, touching on the Alexa thing here as well. And a big problem for me with that was that there was no end to it. Do you remember the whole thing with Randy Orton at WrestleMania, the Jack in a Box and stuff like that? It just...
Well, this is the thing. Like, I mean, Jonesy's exactly what he said. Like, there needs to be something. And I don't want them to put themselves into a corner where it's Bray talking about Bray and that's it. And the next comment, if you want to put it up, where he said wrestlers need to be benefiting from Bray and not just Bray himself. I agree. I really do. We need to see something happen with Bray. But the problem is, as you said, where the hell do you put him? You can't put him against Roman, because it's a no-go.
I don't know if I think he's got to turn heel at some point. I think making a babyface made sense because everyone was so happy to see him back. Whether or not Uncle Howdy is Bo Dallas or someone else or another personality, it kind of sways that part of the storyline. So he kind of needs to, it needs to be revealed kind of soon, because it is kind of starting to drag. And he needs to either be a heel going after a babyface, which is a risky move because people love him so much, or he needs to be a babyface being attacked by his own brother of Bo Dallas, So another comment here from Jonesy. I was hoping Nikki would represent Bray, as they do not do violence men against women. Good point, actually. Yeah, because of the Alexa Bliss, we were talking about the whole women and men dynamic earlier on with Rhea Ripley. But yeah, we don't know if that is going to be the case, but we're not sure. Is Nikki Cross going to be part of this thing here? Is Nikki Cross going to be part of Damage CTRL? There's a lot of different ways we can go with this with Nikki as well. Cameron's got to head off. Thank you, Cameron, for joining us, just as you did yesterday for the build-up, the watch-along, and the instant reaction. You're a true star joining us yesterday, mate. We really do appreciate it, and thanks for coming back today. We'll see you soon, mate. Jonesy, Uncle Howdy is cool, but notice how the whole White Rabbit thing was dropped like a bad smell. Good point, because we mentioned before as well, there were a lot of rumors that this was going to get dragged out for a bit and that Bray might not even be revealed. I think they've kind of done that, but they've reversed it. Bray was revealed and we're still waiting on whatever this Uncle Howdy is. What was the White Rabbit? Do they know? We mentioned it yesterday. Do they know what is next for Bray Wyatt? Or, or they kind of seen us,
I think,
talk about online and going, that one. Let's do that one.
Yeah. I think the biggest issue is, look, Bray's back. We love Bray. There's no saying that we don't, right? His return was good. The pop was amazing. The Fireflies, everything they've done was great on his return. Now we're getting a new part of Bray, and the promo. I'm not saying he's bad at promos. The promos have been solid all throughout. Anything that he said has been great. Visuals, everything's looked perfect. But do something with it. I know you want us to do a slow build and build it up, but we're gonna get bored if something doesn't happen. And I just want to see something happen. If something happens to Bray, and then there's a build for that, great. But he's just coming out to the ring, cutting promos and watching the video. And I'm not against that, but let him get attacked. Bring someone out. Do something. Like, you know, but do you know what I feel like? Have you seen Finding Nemo? When the fish is dead, he's like, do something.
I haven't seen Finding
Just
Nemo, but
do
yes, I know the
something.
clip.
Make it interesting. I'm not saying that it's not, but if you're gonna do something with Bray, do something with Bray. I don't mind him talking, but
they are at risk of it going
attacking.
Do
something.
Everyone was shocked that he went kind of more realistic Bray. You know, this is me on that first promo. It was emotional, but at some point it's in danger of dragging, and I'm worried about it because I'm always worried about Bray because it's, as we've said so many times, he's been screwed over, I feel, a lot of times with his kind of genius, and it's not come to fruition the way it should have. And there are risks with that, as Jonesy mentioned earlier on. You know, that's kind of similar to what Seth said. Someone's got to benefit, not just Bray. But yeah, it's a tough one. They really got to be careful with it as well. Quickly jumping on some of these comments again, with Cameron saying no problem about being tomorrow. Cameron, we won't be here tomorrow, buddy. But if you do want to check out some Raw coverage, I'm sure the guys over on Give Me a Whole Yeah, I should say. I've done it again. With Dom, if you would have seen him on the build-up yesterday, he's got a channel where he does streams of those. We don't cover Raw and SmackDown that often, to be honest, mate. No. So we're mainly here for the PLEs and maybe some of the stuff in between. So that is my suggestion for Raw coverage as well. What was you going to say there, Rob?
Or if you do want to watch a PL, well, I guess there were pay-per-views back then. Go and watch another one of our watch-alongs. We've done SummerSlam and we've done ECW. You know, so go back and watch them. They were fun. And again, we went on many tangents and spoke about, obviously not your dinner, but I think we spoke about food at some point. So yeah, go back and watch them if you enjoy the stuff. Obviously, we won't be able to respond to you in the comments because it's not live.
It's not live, yeah.
Feel free to comment and we'll get back to you on them. They were fun.
Definitely,
and especially the SummerSlam 92, you get to see my face light up when Bulldog wins.
Speaking of watch-alongs, Rob, we are looking to hopefully coming up to Survivor Series. Of course, we've got a lock-in date for this, but we were looking to do Survivor Series 2002, man. So first ever chamber match, of course, in WWE. That'll be a fun one to do, coming up to 20 years, the anniversary of that. A lot of content on this channel, as Rob's been saying as well. Interviews with superstars such as Rhea Ripley, who've been talking about quite a bit tonight as well. Well, there's a lot of them, to be honest, but we'll just kind of name a few here as well. A great chat with Drew McIntyre, and also a great chat with who is still the champion, of course, Bianca Belair. So check out that and plenty more that we have on this channel. Get into a few more of these comments as well from Jonesy, who says, off topic, WWE interested in CM Punk. Did you want to see him back? I think he will cause controversy. We'll go a few more points here as well. The main issue I had with his pay-per-view was following the tag champs looked so weak due to Jake Paul taking him out. Roman was selling the match more than sold his harder match against Drew. That's a great point. And also, a last thing, why the hell did no one attack the Bloodline on the ramp at the end of the pay-per-view if they were in War Games? Right, so to touch on some of those things there, we'll quickly touch on Punk, of course. Very off topic at the moment, but I'm happy to talk about in a very briefest way, I can say. I don't know what's going on in Punk anymore. I don't know how I feel about Punk anymore. His return was one of the best things I've seen in wrestling history. I was a big Punk fan. However, the way it ended, one of the worst things I've seen in wrestling history. And it's kind of took the momentum away from a company that was so exciting. Not just him. He's not the only part of the issue here. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I just don't see him go back to WWE anytime soon. I think they're thinking we dodged a bullet with that one. And they might let it calm down and eventually reach out to him. I'm just not sure if there is any truth behind him actually flirting with going back to the old Fed just yet. What about you, Rob, before we move on to those other comments?
I believe this is a whole podcast on its own, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not that I'm the one that calls the shots around here. It's this one. Which way is it? That way.
Hey.
But I mean, if it's something that you want us to have an opinion on and kind of speak more in depth about instead of
I'll be happy to do that.
And I'm down. As you know, like I mean, you messaged me at 5 a.m. after the Extreme Rules. I was like, we're going live. I was like,
we're going live, buddy. Let's do it.
So, like, if you want us to talk about that and do a podcast specifically on that, then
Yeah.
let us know in the comments, and obviously we'll try and do it while it's still a hot topic.
Mm.
But yeah, my honest opinion, I don't know. I mean, could you imagine the wrestling world just Punk rejoins AEW? I think last year, Cody
Yeah.
leaves AEW,
Yeah.
and then all of a sudden Punk quits or whatever's going on,
Yeah.
and then joins WWE. Like, just boom. And on top of that, MGF's contract is out. I think January.
Yeah,
I don't know when it is.
January
January
2024. They say, yeah, that's it.
Imagine him returning, coming to the Rumble. Just, oh my goodness, but I would lose my mind.
As much as I think AEW's fallen off, there's still no doubt that it's a very exciting time to be a wrestling fan with what we've got both companies, offering us. And I do hope AEW starts to pick up, and I do hope things work well for Punk as well. It's a real shame that this seems to be the end at this moment in time. I don't see him come back anytime soon. To WWE at least, and we'll see how it goes. A quick kind of follow up here regarding Punk. WWE look at it as having one of the best AEW stars. Do not expect him to leave creative control, as I am sure Triple H would not be that silly. Still a huge return in WWE in 2023. It would be a huge return. It would be huge. Don't get me wrong. I just don't know if they are ready for that. I think hassle, in their opinion. I think they would put it down to a bit of stress that they don't need. But they always say, if the time's right and the money's right,
never say never.
Never say never, and all that stuff as well. But
I would just, I would just love to see if Punk did make his return. If he'd done the return exactly like he did in AEW and dived on a fan, just when you just
doing the whole X amount of years ago, I left sports entertainment. I'm back.
Yeah. and then just having a fan just crying like it, just mirroring it, mirroring it. I think how great would that be? I know it's a bit petty and things like that, and WWE aren't doing that, but they do mention each other all the time. I just think if they're gonna do that, just make a light-hearted joke out of it. Think, well, you had Punk, we've now got him.
Just to be fair, they weren't using the same theme. It was similar to, they were trying to recapture what they had with the Summer of Punk, the WWE version at least anyway. So quite an interesting one there. Right, so what we're going to do now, we're going to move on to the main event here, of course. And once again, we've already spoken about this. If you were with us last night, we really do appreciate everyone that was with us on the instant reaction. So if you want to dig into this deeper and further and see what we thought straight after the show, you've got that. If you want to see what we thought as it happened in real time, then you can check out our watch along. But of course, this is the recap and review, and what we're talking about now is the main event. Roman Reigns, Logan Paul. And I got to say, it was entertaining. It delivered. But I'm with Jonesy here in the sense that, and I didn't really think about this last night because I was so caught up in it, but I'm with Jonesy in the sense that Roman probably gave a little too much here. And they gave Logan too much. And even the points that he says, the Usos as well kind of being made to look like fools. I get that it's within its confines of what's going on, it's fine. But when you've kind of built up this kind of legacy over the year now with the most, but you could argue that's why they did it, because they're so cemented as these things. But it's not good. It's not a good look that Logan kind of could have done it. I don't know. As much as I enjoyed it, and the whole Logan thing we've done to death here, talking about he's fantastic as an outsider, and he's undeniable in my opinion as far as the talent and a lot of room to grow, and I think he'll grow into it. The match itself was great, but in hindsight, I am starting to see from the perspective of maybe they gave him a little too much. Even though I enjoyed it. It wasn't very good credibility-wise for Roman and his run that he's been on, and every guy that's come up to him and he's beat previous to this. So, what are your thoughts on this, mate? 24 hours removed.
Look, I still enjoyed it for what it was. I guess we have to look at it as, I don't want to use the word spectacle, but
I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I get where you're coming from.
It was a main event booked. It was a typical Saudi main event. You can't take anything away from that. However, they put on a display. Yes, okay, Roman may have oversold. He didn't oversell like HBK did for Hogan, thankfully. We didn't get that.
Yeah, it wasn't that kind of overselling. It was selling, but it was, should he have sold that much? Like, should they have given Logan that much of a kind of thing? And that, that's the big thing here for me.
Yeah, I think what they done though was they had a very good angle of, he's got this metal thing in his hand, like this rod in his hand, and one lucky punch. And I guess Logan hit Roman with the forearm and a lucky punch, and he got a 2 and 8
Yeah,
months or something.
I like that,
but then he sold that, and then he sold the draw after, and things like that. But
they went into it like he was an underdog, but he didn't perform like an underdog, apart from that one bit.
And I think that was the biggest issue. He looked like an underdog, but didn't get portrayed as one in the match. There was a lot of selling. I mean, the Usos not being attacked on the apron. Yeah, if they did, they did. I mean, Jake Paul hit them both, and they both dropped. So it made Jake look strong in a way of like he also laid them out, and then Logan diving over the top, which I think is where he may have tore his ACL, MCL, meniscus with that big dive. I think it was there. I may be wrong. I said don't have any medical background. I'm not a Dr. Lucha. I mean that'd be great, but
it would be new gimmick for you there, bro.
There we go. But I think if it was going to be anywhere, it was either the buckshot lariat he done, the big dive, frog splash, either of the frog splashes, or the dive over the rope. But yeah, for what it was. I mean, if we're talking about it 24 hours later, Twitter has blown up because of it. So
and that's what they want.
That's what they want. So even if Roman did oversell just a little bit, or the Usos got attacked a little bit more by Jake, it's a talking point. And do you know what? The eyes are on WWE in this moment, and the Pauls and the Usos and the Bloodline. So
that,
done what it was supposed
clip
to do.
alone of him jumping off the, off the turnbuckle to the outside and stuff, that clip alone is viral worthy. And, he says at the beginning of it, Roman, you're going viral sort of thing. The Roman calling out Mr. Beast and KSI, I think they was just kind of messing about. But the fact is, they could run them. If they wanted to, they could run with that as well. If those guys, pique their interest, particularly KSI, I could see kind of doing it as well. My goodness, what a thing that would be for both of them as well. So, I mean, how could you not? You're chatting to Logan Paul, who's going, mate, I'm having a time of my life here. Like, you need to get over here. Do you know what I mean? It's a win-win for WWE and these kind of, these viral celebrities. So,
well, the thing is, even if, let's say, I don't know, I don't mind Mr. Beast. I know he does is different-esque to KSI would be more likely to do a WWE.
Yeah, Mr. Beast ain't Evans, these kind of celebrity boxing matches or anything like that.
But what I'm thinking, though, imagine if you looked at it this way. WWE come to the UK. Just putting out an invite and not saying anything. Roman comes to these shows. So even if just them staring down and nothing...
Mate, I won't be against the next PLE being a KSI thing. I wouldn't be against...
I'm not saying that that's what we're going to get, but KSI acknowledging it on his Twitter then gets more retweets.
Yeah.
So you're now in this realm of you've got wrestling as a whole, then you've got Logan Paul doing the now it's going to be an iconic video of him frog splashing off the turnbuckle onto a table on Roman, filming it himself in a selfie position. Already a hit. It's going to go viral. It went viral in under 20. It went viral as it happened, basically. Let's say it that way, before we got the footage. Then all these celebs are now retweeting it, and all these influencers are retweeting it. It's getting more eyes on the product. So, okay, yes, it may have been a bit too much for Roman to sell, but what does it matter? Because the whole idea was to get more eyes on the product. We done that just with that video alone. So it's a win-win. I mean, we can moan about it, but it done the purpose of what it was supposed to do, which was get
within the confines of WWE and its own canon. Yeah, he shouldn't have had that, but at the same time, he shouldn't have been in this match in that. But again, within the kind of marketing thing, it could have gone worse, mate. They could have given him the titles and they could have gone full force with it. So they still kind of held back, thankfully, on that. And I do think the Pauls versus the Usos would be a good way to go with it. Quickly going to touch on Jonesy here again. Thanks, dudes. Great discussion. Enjoy your evening, mate. Much appreciated having you here as well. And chatting wrestling with you, Jonesy. Really do appreciate you just stopping by, especially these new faces as well. So give us a little bit of a subscription here if you could. Nice, hit that red button, twinkle that little bell, as they say. And we would love to have you guys back on a stream in the future. What we're going to start doing now, guys, we're going to start wrapping up, of course, just with a few final thoughts on the PLE. But if you want to kind of see more of this, as Rob alluded to earlier on, we really touched kind of heavily on the Logan Paul stuff at the start of this stream. So if you have caught this live, then please head back and listen to the beginning of it, because we went quite in depth on it there as well. If you've been watching on demand and you want to kind of dig in deeper yourself as well, then as we mentioned, this is the recap and review, but we also had an instant reaction podcast last night as well. So brilliant kind of conversation throughout the day, really. Everyone that joined us on the watch along, everyone that joined us on the build up show as well. We would love to have you back next time we do this sort of stuff for the PLE. That is Survivor Series as well. We got a comment here as well, but the Astros, congratulations to the Astros. There we go. I'm guessing they won today. There we go. So
I'm looking. I don't follow Major League Baseball, I'll be honest. It's not so ice hockey, sure.
Yeah,
but it said Houston Astros are World Series champions.
There you go. The World Series
Jeremy Penner makes history.
Only played in North America, of course, the World Series. Fantastic. No offense. I like the history of the sport baseball. Not a big fan myself. Don't really play it or watch it or anything like that. But in school, playing a little bit of softball. And and you know what, Rob? Baseball came from England. How about that? America's favorite pastime, English game. What do you know?
I mean,
go on.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, so a rookie, Jeremy Penner, I'm sorry, I think that's his name, last name. It says Jeremy Penner makes history as a World Series MVP. So, I mean, kudos to you as a rookie. Great.
Well done, Jezza. Nice one. I don't think we could feel any more British at this very moment in time, even though, as I said,
just get me a crumpet.
Oh, yeah. Give me a crumpet and a cup of tea. Right. Anyway, let's start wrapping up on that note. Rob, mate, really enjoyed having you on once again. And thank you for all your support, as always, with your contributions to the channel. It has been great. Let's head on to talk about some of these predictions, right? So what we had before the show, this is how the table looked. Mate, me too. This is how the table looked before the show. And just to let you know, what we do is we do it season to season. WrestleMania to WrestleMania is a season here. So Dan was on 29, Lucas on 27, you on 25, Rob. I was on 23, doing awful. This is not great for me. And then Dan sent me the updated scoreboard of this, and we did the graphic accordingly. But since we noticed Dan's error on that other match earlier on with the OC, I've had to redo this while we're live, and I think these are actually the real results. So Dan giving himself an extra point, and Lucas a less point. You had less points. No, you had exactly the same, but I had quite a few less points as well. So I think that's the official score, guys. We'll kind of do a bit of VAR again. I've done this in real time. Apologies if this is wrong, but it seems Dan. I think Dan. I'm not quite sure what's happened here. I'm not quite sure. Maybe I'm
too many limb sips.
But because he was wrong on the other bit, it's hard to tell for sure. So we'll have to do a little bit of VAR. Maybe it was too many lem tips.
Is that also the including or excluding the points that we actually did win, but we've not been given yet? Has that come into a? Is that
Are you talking about last month? No, we can't get that because Dan actually sent me a kind of a note a little while ago saying actually this is what happened. And Rob, you did specifically state that it would be Rey Mysterio being held, and I agreed with you.
Rey.
No, it wasn't. Yeah. I have to say, but basically, last month we predicted down to the tiniest details, really, that what was going to happen in the I Quit match. That they were going to hold. We said Rey, but of course it ended up being Beth Phoenix, and then Edge was going to have to say I quit, and they would still do whatever they were going to do to Rey, but it ended up being Beth Phoenix. It was exactly what we called it, except for the wrong person. So we were gutted because not only did we not get a point, we lost our bonus point because what a prediction that was, and we risked it, man. We lost points.
I'm almost as angry as that as I am with the Iconics being let go.
Okay, all right. Now I know this is going to go on for a long time. Also, we lost a bonus point here as well, mate, because we did try and say that we thought the Omos Braun match, which again made so much sense.
No, it wasn't a bonus point. We didn't bonus it though. We just
to be a draw, you have to be a bonus point because it's a bold.
Was that ever it was?
It is. I went back and checked the rule book, which is a text message between myself and Dan from about 2 years ago. That's the rules.
I need these rule book.
I'll have to put them up somewhere. But yeah, sadly, the points aren't looking too good for me and you, Rob. But although we did get some,
it's only 4 between me and Dan, and I mean, there's 6 between you and Dan, and that could be made up easy.
That could be made up. We've got a Rumble, which will be big for points. Exactly. We've got chamber matches. We've got WrestleMania, of course, where it all ends as well. But anyway, speaking of ending, sadly, we've become towards the end of this stream as well. I really want to thank everybody that's joined us throughout this entire weekend and the days before, of course, with the original prediction preview podcast as well. I want to say thank you to all the guests that we've had on, as well as, our kind of core RN Pro Wrestling podcast team with myself here, Rob here, Luke has been on, of course, as well. You've seen him earlier on in the stream, but we also had the great Michelle of other Rebellious Noise channels who joined us for the build-up show, and of course Dom, as we mentioned earlier on, of Give Me a Whole Year fame. So yeah, much appreciated to everyone that's joined us, but not only on the stream on air, but also those that have commented and those that have kind of watched in the background as well. We've gained a few subscribers this weekend, which we are supremely grateful for, and we hope that we've gained a few throughout this stream, and we hope that we've kind of entertained you enough to earn that subscription. We really do appreciate all the support we get here on the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. If you're new here, it's exactly as it sounds. We are Rebellious Noise. We talk pro wrestling on this channel, but we have other channels as well. We talk football, a channel for food and drink, a channel for music, and a channel for film and TV as well. So check out the rest of our channels, including our main Rebellious Noise channel, of course, which covers a bit of everything on there as well. I don't know what I was doing here, a little bit of macho man. But what I think we'll do now is say goodbye completely and properly here, Rob. Thank you very much, mate, for coming on the stream. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hope you've enjoyed this weekend of Crown Jewel action. Anything you want to say, mate, before we get out of here?
No, I'm just excited to watch the Survivor Series. When we did a watch along.
Mate, yeah, of course. 2002 coming your way. We'll have to let you know when that is, of course, but subscribe here for details on that. And of course, follow us at RN Pro Wrestling on Instagram and on Twitter as well for updates in between what we post here on YouTube. But with that being said, thank you everyone that's took part this weekend, and we really do appreciate it. And again, thank you WWE for a good show, because it's always good to do these streams when you actually care about what you're talking about. So it's been nice to do so. Anyway, once again, thank you everyone, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.
Welcome to the Rebellious Noise Pro Wrestling channel. On this channel, we bring you some great content from inside and outside of the squared circle. We will go through and offer some in-depth analysis of the biggest events of the year, as well as bringing you exclusive interviews with some of the industry's biggest names. There will also be live show reviews, in-depth features, and podcasts. So make sure you give that subscribe button a slam so you don't miss any of the action.